comes a time in every girl's life when she's really got to ask herself. Sometimes she's got to ask herself, is she steady? Do I want steady? I mean, do you really want to be Johnny? But honestly, no one knows what time is honestly what happens. First of all, let's see if it when Johnny asks if he can stay decide to
3 important rules for breaking up. Don't put off breaking up when you know you want to. Prolonging the situation only makes it worse. Tell him honestly, simply, kindly, but firmly. Don't make a big production. Don't make up an elaborate story. This will help you avoid a big tear-jerking scene. If you want to date other people, say so. Be prepared for the boy to feel hurt and rejected. Even if you've gone together for only a short time and haven't been too serious, there's still a feeling of rejection when someone says she prefers the company of others to your exclusive company. But if you're honest and direct and avoid making a flowery emotional speech when you break the news, the boy will respect you for your frankness, and honestly, he'll appreciate the kind, straightforward manner in which you told him your decision. Unless he's a real jerk or a crybaby, you'll remain friends. I'm popular. I'm a quarterback. I'm popular. My mom says I'm a catch. I'm popular. I'm never last picked. I got a cheerleading chick.
Hey gals and guys, this is Michael Ferrari of Cinema to Meep and the Last American Video Store podcast. Welcome to the 24th bonus Patreon episode. And joining me today is my good pal, Ara Alishan. Welcome back to the podcast, Ara.
Hey, Meep. Thanks for having me back on, buddy.
Thanks for coming back. And today we are tackling which subgenre of movies today?
We are going to be focusing on sports comedies.
Sports comedies. Now, I wanted to get a little bit more specific when talking about genres on this podcast. I wanted to go, instead of just covering sports movies, I wanted to go a little bit more specific. I'm like, what should we do? Oh, sports comedies. I think sports comedies are often, I don't know, maybe not as much appreciated or loved or well thought of when you talk about sports movies. I feel like they're not taken as seriously most of the time, which I can understand to a certain degree, but there's a lot of great sports comedies, movies that play with the genre of sports in a silly way or just play it for laughs. I mean, but I think there's a lot of really good ones that, I don't know, I seem to gravitate towards, and I seem to watch a lot. And I'm thinking about these films. I'm like, well, yeah, I've watched these movies a lot over the years. And growing up, there were quite a few good sports movies, and it seems that it's extended over time through the 90s. I don't know if it's kind of a genre that's pretty alive these days, but when tracing back all the films that I appreciated, there seemed to be a good 20, 30-year span of good sports comedies, and I think it's kind of a subgenre that needs a little bit of love, since there aren't you're not seeing a lot of sports movies in general these days. So right. I just kind of wanted to give it some love here this month. Now that sports are kind of sort of back, but not quite in real life, sure. In our crazy 2020 existence.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of sports actually with basketball and football, but it's definitely not the same without the crowds and with everyone wearing masks and all the other crazy stuff going on. So it's kind of fun seeing like these these movies and kind of these glorified versions of these sports and how they should be. And I don't know, it's a really fun subgenre to go back to, because I grew up watching a lot of these movies, but I just don't go back to them very often. So I'm glad you kind of picked this and gave me a little nudge, because it reminded me that I really enjoy a lot of these movies.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why I watch a lot of sports movies in general, because I'm not a sports person. Anyone who knows me, I don't think of sports when you think of me, right?
Sure.
And I see that all the time when I'm like playing with my kids, and we're playing like hoops or whatever. I'm like, God, this is not. This is not. They're not getting any kind of sports talent from me, that's for sure. And if they are going to, it's going to be from my wife, who was much more athletic in her youth than I was. So I don't know. So I live vicariously through sports movies. I feel like there's a lot of natural drama built into sports movies. So maybe that's why a lot of people, when they think of sports movies, they think of the more dramatic ones, because there's so much built-in drama when it comes to the genre. But I don't know. I feel like for me personally, I love a lot of those dramatic ones. I watch a lot of them, but I kind of wanted to just the ones that kind of tickle my funny bone while playing to all the drama that comes from sports and all the natural drama as well as the wacky things that can ensue from these situations. And we're covering a wide variety of sports here today. You'll see the usual. You'll see some baseball. You'll see some basketball. But we might even go a little bit out there, or a little bit questionable with sport. You tell us if that bothers you, but I don't care. It's like we can, obviously it's like we could talk about whatever movies we want, but try to keep it into the sports genre. But I think we, looking at our list, I feel like we covered a nice variety pack of sports, which is what I wanted to do initially with this podcast. So, and we got it.
Yeah, but believe it or not, we do actually have like some standards. We tried. We really tried. But you can't expect us to not throw in some oddball choices for sure.
Before we dive deep into that, what have we been watching lately that isn't sports? How about you?
All right. My recently seen, let me think. I watched, I rewatched Stephen King's Silver Bullet and Stephen King's Cat's Eye.
Oh, nice.
Both of which I love. Mm-hmm. And these were the Umbrella Entertainment Blu-rays.
Cool. Yeah.
And, I thought the transfers were terrific. I'm curious to kind of compare Silver Bullet to the Scream Factory release, which I also have, but I don't know if I've actually watched it.
Right.
Those are two movies I adore. So, it was great just kind of watching those again recently. I picked up Night Terror from 1989 on DVD, and that was from Massacre Video.
Okay.
It's an anthology that needs to be seen to be believed. Shot on video, just to give you an idea. And one of the stories does include a killer teddy bear. It's great, and I can't in good conscience recommend it, obviously, but I loved it. A couple of weeks ago, I hung out with my brother, and he introduced me to the 1991 regional Halloween slasher Haunted Ween, which was really fun.
Never seen it.
I hadn't either. Yeah, I hadn't seen it before, and now I'm really hoping that it gets a Vinegar Syndrome release or something. It feels perfect for that.
Nice.
It's set in a haunted house kind of. Parts of it are with a fraternity and a lot of fun stuff going on, but there's nothing really Halloween about it other than the haunted house. There's no and that bothers me. I just throw some pumpkins in there, just have a jack-o'-lantern in the background. Even Silver Bullet that just had the last day of that movie is on Halloween. Even that they put a pumpkin on the porch at least. So I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. That's a minor complaint. It was still really fun, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I finally got around to seeing Ready or Not with my wife.
Oh, okay.
Is that what it's called? Right? The
Ready or Not.
Yeah. Oh, for a second I thought that was wrong. But yeah, I wanted to see it in theaters, but I never got around to it for whatever reason. And I enjoyed it. And now I guess I'm on board with seeing what these guys can do with the Scream franchise.
That's right. I was kind of, when I heard that they were doing it, because initially Scream movie, how's that going to work in 2021 without Wes Craven and everything, and Kevin Williamson. But Yeah, I liked Ready or Not, actually. The more and the more I think about that movie, the more I enjoy it, especially in this world of 2020, where horror movies aren't quite the same. And to me, they don't work the same way. And I've been watching some lately, and they just haven't really worked for me. And Ready or Not was one of the fun ones. One of the ones that actually I appreciated more the more I thought about it. So maybe they'll do something fun with it.
I mean, going off of what you just said, like, it takes a lot for me to even watch a modern horror movie, or like a modern movie in general. So it has to really like appeal to me. Like, something has to go off in my radar to make me think this could be something I like. Because I pass on so many that everybody raves about. Mm-hmm. And I just never watch them. But even this one that I was interested in, I mean, you see how long it took me to see it. So, I don't know. I'm really bad with keeping up on the new stuff. But I'm glad I finally saw this. You know, it's a fun movie for sure. I think it's a really fun idea with the bonkers end. And the last thing I'll mention is I picked up Cruel Jaws, aka Jaws 5. From Severin Films, and gosh, I mean, it was like everything I could have like dreamed it would be. It was just awesome. I really loved it. I only watched one of the cuts that come with the edition, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited to actually watch the other cuts soon. So this was directed by, Bruno Mattei, who I'm a big fan of. I mean, you remember how much I went on and on about Shocking Dark. He also did Robo-War. So he directed this movie under the name William Snyder. And because of that, those clever guys over at Severin Films called one of the cuts the Snyder Cut. So I really got a kick out of that as someone who like follows like all the craziness with like comic book movies and all the hype that went on with the Snyder Cut for Justice League and all that. So I don't know. I thought that was really funny, and I'm excited to check out the other cut now because I really enjoyed the regular cut I watched. I have no idea what the difference is going to be, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of other stuff too, but I think that's a pretty decent chunk there. What have you been watching?
Lots of stuff as always. There's no shortage of stuff. Lots of family movie night stuff lately. So we watched most recently Mr. Boogedy. Right. Disney Plus has the Mr. Boogedy movies. There's two of them. We only watched the first one, which I think is the best of the two. That's what I hear. And I've seen Mr. Boogedy before, and I enjoyed it, but I feel like watching it through my kids' lens, I think I enjoyed it even more. It's pretty silly. It's very tame. It's very G. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun watching it with them. I loved watching those Wonderful World of Disney things in general. Growing up, that was a little too. I don't know. For some reason, that one passed me by. I don't know what it was. Maybe I felt it was a little too old for it. I don't know when it came out. Not sure. But seeing it as an adult, the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it. It's pretty silly, good silly fun, and the kids really liked it. We watched Hocus Pocus.
Christy Swanson, right?
Christy Swanson, yes, and Mr. Boogedy. That was like one of our first things. We watched Hocus Pocus together as a family. It's another movie. It came out in 1993. I was 18, so I was way too old for it. Sure. Or at least like when it came out, I was too cool for it. So it wasn't my thing. So I really just watched it maybe once over the years, and then I watched it with our kids, and they enjoyed it. They weren't in love with it or anything. It seems derivative of a lot of other movies while watching it. It does feel like a little bit like The Midnight Hour and a few other things. It's not quite there as a movie for me. It doesn't quite hold my interest as much, especially when it starts getting into the musical segments. I don't know. It doesn't quite do it for me, but there's definitely moments, and it's pretty Halloween-y, I guess, in this feel. So I guess I appreciated that aspect of it, but it does feel like a movie made on sets, and very manufactured feeling at the same time. So.
Yeah, no, that's well said. It's a movie that, I didn't grow up loving somehow. I don't know how I missed that, but my wife did, and I've kind of been won over now after having seen it so many times with her and my daughter.
Right.
And I do think it has like some pretty fun Halloween atmosphere. Like that's, it's very heavy with all the leaves and everything. I think they kind of nailed that.
Right. Yeah, they definitely went Halloween heavy, which is, and it's a good movie for this time of the year, and I can see why it's become like a perennial favorite for people and new generations. And my kids definitely enjoyed that aspect of it, and they like the kids were the main focus of the movie, and I think that won them over. Garfield. What's that?
Might come up. There's an actress in there that might come up in our list. Actually, we can get to that later.
That's right. We saw her like, I feel like she's been in everything we've been watching lately. Garfield's Halloween Adventure is something we watch every year when Halloween starts creeping up on us, and really. It's like usually the first thing we watch that's Halloween related, and that's what we did this year. The first thing we watched was the Garfield Halloween Adventure, Halloween special, and it really sets the tone, and it's something that's become a real staple in our house, so we love it.
That's amazing. I love it.
It's so good. And a great remake of The Fog.
Yes.
Then for family movie nights, we watched Beethoven. That was like a first viewing for the kids, and it was an enjoyable romp of a movie written by two powerhouses, Amy Holden Jones of Slumber Party Massacre and Made to Order. She wrote that, as well as John Hughes, who was incognito, you think, under his pen name. So that was fun, watching Beethoven and Charles Grodin's brand of comedy mixed together in a family movie. The Toy is a much more controversial family movie night viewing. It could be perceived as a movie definitely not for our times, and looking at it now, definitely not. But I try to keep movies in their context of in this case 1982, and it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable. The kids had fun watching it. The movie does tackle some heavy themes of racism and just the idea of this guy who's being rented by this rich family. It's kind of, it can make you kind of like question some of the choices, but I think it's fairly handled fairly well for the time. Definitely not a movie that we made these days, but I did appreciate the comedy of the movie. I thought it was funny, and Richard Pryor was really funny in the movie, and it was fun just like seeing his rapport with the kid. He's pretty zany in it. This is like the zany height of his comedy in the 80s, with along with this and Superman 3, which I think he did kind of back to back. Ironically, this was directed by Richard Donner, who did Superman.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I always forget it's a Richard Donner movie. All right, and then so I watched a couple of new movies. I watched Spiral, which is a newish horror movie. I did not like this movie, Spiral. It's about a gay couple who move to the country, and lots of bad things start happening because lots of bad choices are made by the characters, lots of stupid bad choices. And I hate horror movies that keep doing that, especially newer horror movies. They keep doing it over and over and over. So I get frustrated. Like, me and my wife watched it, and we were just like half the time we just want to throw things at the screen when characters just do stupid things or make choices where they're not telling people things.
Right.
They're like lots of secrets. Just like, why? Just bad writing. It had a couple of good moments in the film, so it's not a total loss. There's some good ideas there, but just not a really fully realized and fleshed out movie as it could have been. We were just a bit frustrated while watching it because of that. I watched Unpregnant, another new movie. I think it's on HBO Max, like a teen comedy about two girls on a road trip. One of them's getting an abortion in a state that'll allow her to, because when you're living in one of the certain states in our country, you're 17, and you want to get an abortion, they don't allow you to unless you get permission from your parents, and so they're driving all the way into Mexico to get an abortion. I think they're coming from Missouri, and it's a comedy. It's funny. It's a funny road trip kind of movie, and I think it has a political message, but it's not, it doesn't really do in a way that's off-putting. I think it's just done in a fun, silly teen girl way, and I thought it was well done for what it is. So I recommend a new movie called Unpregnant. And then I watched finally Rambo, the new Rambo movie. Let's say I watched the first 20 minutes of the new Rambo movie, and that was it for me. I don't know. I don't know what I watched this new Rambo director's cut or whatever it's called. I think it was streaming on Prime or something, and it was just not the Rambo that I know. It was lots of scenes of him, like, I guess, feeling tortured by his past, and like telling you that he's tortured by his past, and then like showing him how he's tortured by his past, and then other characters are like, wow, it's, you've really been haunted by your past. There's like a lot of that, like in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I'm like, is the whole movie going to be this? Because I'm not in, and I just hung up on Rambo 20 minutes in. I'm like, nope, sorry, this is not the Rambo.
I will say that. So I saw that in theaters with my buddy, and we actually went to the movies to see something else. And I think we went to see the new Terminator. Maybe it was around this time,
right?
And we were going to be a little late, and he said, "No, you have to see the beginning, so we'll come back and see that." And I've actually still never seen it, so we went and saw Rambo instead. And I was just going to say, you kind of missed out on. I mean, it's not like a fun movie, but it gets so ridiculously over the top, violent and gory that, like, I was laughing. I mean, people were looking funny in the theaters, but like, yeah, there was like, hearts being ripped out of chests and stuff like that. Not like in an Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom kind of way. It was like nuts. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know how the franchise got to that point, honestly, from where it started. But I mean, what can I? But yeah, I mean, I saw it. I'm not going to watch it again. I mean, that was enough for me. But yeah, no, I just wanted to let you know that it does have some parts that I thought were hilarious, but people around me think that was strange that I thought it was hilarious.
I mean, I love the original First Blood movie. I think it's a great movie, but I don't have a lot of love for like the Rambo franchise in general. I think there's some of them are just not that great. I haven't seen 3 in a long time, so maybe I have to go back to that one. And I think I enjoyed the one that came after that too, but I don't know. So I might have to revisit some of them, but I just not like 2 that much, and I didn't. Yeah, and I couldn't take 20 minutes of this one. So, but yeah, if it gets crazy, maybe I'll check it out again. Those parts, but I have to fast forward the beginning.
I have to, yeah.
I watched Volcano. A crack open.
Oh. Is that the Tommy Lee Jones one?
Yes, the Tommy Lee Jones disaster movie. My son likes disaster movies because he's really into science.
Oh, awesome.
So I thought it'd be good to introduce, since he's into science, and really into science and weather, to watch disaster movies. And we watched The Core like last month, and this month we watched Volcano, and he was really into both of them. So it was a lot of fun watching. It's a really silly, stupid movie,
yes,
to be honest.
That's what I remember. It's been a while, but that's what I remember.
But if you'd approach it and don't take it too seriously, I think it's good fun.
Sure.
So yeah, we had fun with that. I watched Sketch Artist, which I hadn't seen since the 90s, with Jeff Fahey and Sean Young and Drew Barrymore. Yeah. Have you ever seen the box or the VHS box for Sketch Artist? It's like a big spoiler. One character's like dead on the cover, so like you know what happens. It's good. It's a weird it's a weird late night movie. It's like there's some weird. I kind of like, to be honest, I fell asleep a bit on it, And I was like
Sure.
drifting in and out of it, so I'm like, what is happening in this weird movie? And,
I remember
I took it.
but I got to watch it again. I think I have the MGM limited edition DVD. That old DVD-R line
cool.
they had.
Yeah, I would like having a physical copy of that. To me, it's a good enough movie to rewatch, and the Sketch Artist 2 with him and Courtney Cox. So I kind of want to check that one out now. But I did like it. It's definitely a very moody kind of noir-y. He's definitely moody in it and like noir-y kind of feel to it, and I like that about it because that early 90s noir kind of thing going on and in indie movies. So I enjoyed it. A couple of more. Crooked Hearts was like a family drama. There was like a period of recently I was watching a bunch of family dramas, and Crooked Hearts was one of the ones that really stood out for me as a good ensemble movie. It's a movie that I've liked for a long time, but I just recently watched it after a bit of not watching it, and lots of great performances in it and good actors, and I would just look up Crooked Hearts, I think 1991 or so. Good stuff, good drama there. Code of Silence, the Chuck Norris movie. We watched that, and that was a lot of fun. It's a very good, gritty Chicago cop movie. And I always think Chuck Norris is a good action star when he's like not saying a lot, and not, just like kind of like just being a cop and up against whatever, or some guy up against it. And this is that movie where he's up against, of course, a code of silence from the police who are protecting each other from being amoral scumbags as they can be sometimes. And it was good. It's a good gritty movie.
Right. I was just going to ask, and this is something I noticed the last time I watched that movie, which I hope I'm not getting them mixed up, but I'm pretty sure you could spot some Halloween decorations in the background. I'm not sure if you spotted that, so I'm kind of tempted to say it counts as a Halloween movie.
There you go.
But I think it was at a bar, like at the cop bar. I noticed some stuff on the wall. I don't know why that kind of stuff catches my eye.
I remember Code of Silence playing in theaters around Halloween too. I just remember seeing the marquee, and it was being Halloween time, so it's kind of interesting. At least it played in that part of the year.
I'll have to watch it now. But I'm pretty sure it's in there. That's cool.
And
there's a robot. If I'm not mistaken.
There is a robot. Yes,
that's awesome.
That's an early RoboCop movie.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we went to the drive-in a couple of times recently because it's the only safe way to go see a movie in public. And Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is one of the movies for the kids. We watch that with the kids, and The Goonies. And The Goonies always plays really well for our kids and for us. So we had a good time watching The Goonies at the drive-in. So cool. Goonies forever. All right. Let's get into our sports movies and our lists and our honorable. You could do our runner-ups first. So go ahead. What else besides your list that you've would have made your list?
Oh, sure. So I know kind of what your list is, so I left a bunch off of mine.
Right.
You'll cover those, but
yep.
I was tempted to include Cool Runnings after revisiting it recently.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I decided to go another route because I noticed how 1992 was already dominating our list.
You've got all the 90. You guys wanted 1992 movies? You came to the right place.
Exactly. It was turning into a 1992 episode, and I was like, maybe I'll just do something a little different. But honestly, I don't know what it was. I just really enjoyed it this time. I kind of wanted to live in that Disney version of Jamaica, in the late 80s.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really fun and charming. Mm-hmm. I'll mention Major League, even though I didn't rewatch it, just because it was a favorite of mine growing up.
Yep.
But for whatever reason, it's a random reason, not anything that you put as far as a restriction. I just decided to limit myself by not covering the same sport twice.
Yep.
And there was another baseball movie I really wanted to talk about. So, you know, I don't feel too bad because everyone knows Major League. Everyone loves Major League. It's, you know, it's going to get plenty of shine regardless.
Let me just say that Major League is my runner-up, and it came pretty close. I was thinking about putting it on the list. I love Major League. My wife was a big Major League fan. I watched Major League 2 and 3.
I remember seeing 2 when I was a kid, but I didn't even know there was a 3.
Don't watch 2. Oh. It's really a big letdown.
I believe it.
Going in that order, I watched Major League 1, 2, and 3 in that order, right after each other, and oh wow, is it a big step down? Part 2.
Oh, I bet.
There's no comedy. It's not funny. It's like it's just a bad rehash of the first movie, and 3 goes into a little bit of a different direction, and I kind of appreciated the direction it went into. It's kind of more of a cozy, like minor league. The stakes are not very high kind of movie.
Did it have any of the cast back?
It had a couple of the cast members from the original film, but they're only there kind of in an obligatory kind of way. It's barely a major league movie. I'm going to put it that way. But I kind of found it cozy in a way, in a certain way, because it was like Scott Bakula playing, as he did a lot in the '90s, playing this washed up kind of over the hill sports guy, and he's sent to this minor, to basically get this minor league team into whip them into shape and prep them for the big leagues. And but then you have like Serrano from Major League 1 showing up on the team, and it was very strange, like how they shoehorned his character in there. And
he probably had it in his contract that he couldn't get out of the third movie.
Yeah. And then Corbin Burnson was the other person from the first 2 movies that shows up.
Oh, no way.
But kind of in a weird, like, why is he here kind of way. But yeah, I like 3, but when you're comparing them to the original, man, they hold no, they don't hold, yeah, not good.
God.
But
yeah. I honestly didn't know there was 3, so I'm glad you brought that up. I do remember seeing 2 as well growing up.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about it. Everything I remember about Major League is from Part 1, which I watched over and over again. So that's I'm tempted now to go down that
I had Part 2 and 3 on a double feature DVD. That's the reason why I watched them. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Very cool. So I guess the last movie I'll mention, just to kind of keep my list from getting too long, and it's the movie that I had the hardest time leaving off of my list, is Forget Paris from 1995. I know people are probably
like, what?
Forget Paris as a sports comedy, but I love Forget Paris, and Billy Crystal plays an NBA referee in this movie, so it's full of like a lot of great sports comedy moments. Mm-hmm. Especially where he's like kind of losing his cool and letting his personal life, his love life, affect his job. And there's a lot of great cameos from like real NBA players, like prominent NBA players. And it's just even with like our loose, like kind of silly criteria, like I just couldn't justify putting it on the sports comedy list. But I really do love that movie. It's weird how much I love it because people in my generation are all like really nostalgic for Space Jam, for like their 90s basketball, like 90s NBA, and I'm like over here like getting my nostalgia from like Forget Paris. So I don't know, it's just something that is always connected to me. Are you a fan of that one?
I am a fan of that movie. I liked that movie when it came out. Actually, that played in the theater when I was working there, so I watched it a couple of times. I remember seeing that a couple times in the theater. I haven't watched it much over the years, though. Like, I'm trying to think now. I don't think I watched it at all over the years, so I need to revisit it.
I would say give it a shot.
Yeah,
I think you'll really like it. I know you're a When Harry Met Sally fan, right? So
all-time classic.
I am too, of course. I think, that's obviously like arguably the best romantic comedy ever, but I think this has a lot of similar vibes that I found really fun.
I love Deborah Winger, and I think she's great. I think it's a weird pairing of the two, but I think it works in its own weird way. So.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I think, I don't know, gosh, I'm kind of glad we're talking about it anyway. So, but yeah, I'd say check it out. Check it out if you haven't seen it for a while. And I think especially now that you're in like the sports mode, I think you might appreciate some of those basketball moments because they're definitely there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch that very soon with my wife. I think she'll appreciate it too. So,
Yes, state movie for sure.
cool. All right, so that's your list. I'm gonna get into mine now. The Longest Yard from 1974 was on my runner-ups list. I really like The Longest Yard. It's often mentioned with sports comedies. I had a little bit of an issue watching it. I'm like, it's not a great comedy. It's kind of
right.
It's actually kind of depressing in parts. It's a complicated movie. It's a very 70s movie, so it's that kind of 70s feel where it's, even though there's comedic things happening, it has a lot of grit to it. And I think The Longest Yard is definitely one of the best gritty sports movie ever made. I mean, I think to me, it's one of the classics, ultimate classics of sports movies. But I wouldn't lump it into this. Certainly, looking at my list of silly movies, like I wouldn't throw it in there. It kind of doesn't really fit. So I would, if I ever did a regular sports movie podcast, it would definitely be in my top 5 because it's such a good movie. It's a really good football movie in general. There's a lot of football in it, and Burt Reynolds is really good in it, and it's a good prison movie. It's got a lot going on in it, and
I was just about to say you could have snuck it into our prison movie
or prison horror. Yeah, it has a lot going on, and it's really well done. And it's a Robert Aldrich film. He's a really good director. I actually watched a couple of Robert Aldrich movies. I watched this one and All the Marbles, his tag team female wrestling movie that he made in the early 80s, which I thought was a fun movie. It could definitely qualify for for this list, but it didn't quite make my top 5, whatever. But it's a good film. The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh was a really good sports basketball movie from the 70s. I was obsessed with that movie as a kid. I watched it in the theater as a little kid and really liked it, and watched it a lot on home video. So it's always been in my radar. I got the Warner Archive DVD. And just really enjoyed it. And I watched it with my wife this viewing, and she really liked it as well. It's a very good 70s movie. Very 70s feeling, late 70s feeling. Little Big League. There's not a lot of kids sports movies on my list. There's a couple. Little Big League, and the other one was the other kids baseball. It was Rookie of the Year. I watched both of those. And I thought those were both really good kids sports movies. So I would recommend them. They're funny, and the idea of little kids playing professional baseball in this case in both movies, I thought it was, or just being in that scenario, was they minded a lot of laughs from it. And in the case of Little Big League, I thought it was a really well done film. It doesn't get as much love as Rookie of the Year or some of those other ones, but I really appreciated its straightforwardness with its plot.
Cool.
Semi-Tough and North Dallas 40 are very 70s takes on the football comedy. Mostly behind-the-scenes movies. Very little football in both movies, funny enough, but well done. North Dallas 40, definitely an indictment against professional football at the time and where it was going and how corrupt it was. And Semi-Tough, too, to some degree, tackling that. But it goes for more of the relationship comedy aspect of three people who are in love with each other and the complications that arise from that. So I thought they were really good sports movies. Semi-Tough, again, Burt Reynolds in a good role, and Jill Clayburgh, love her, and Chris Christopherson. So really well done. North Dallas 40 had Nick Nolte. So again, he's in some good sports movies in general. So Bring It On, the cheerleader movie, we watched that as a family at a family movie night, and that went over really well for most of us. I think one of our kids checked out kind of early, but we enjoyed Bring It On, and it's always fun to watch. The Goon movies are recent sports comedies in the last 10 years or so. Yep.
Me Meep, if I could just jump in there, I totally forgot that I rewatched Bring It On.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the first time I'd seen it since theaters. I think I saw it on a date in high school, and I hadn't seen it. Yeah, it's one of those random movies I remember, and I think I saw it on your honorable mentions, so I was like, oh, I should check this out, and it's a fun movie. There's a lot of good stuff in there for sure. Yeah,
it's a lot of sassy comedy, and it kind of like challenges the PG-13 rating in some ways. It's not quite. Yes. It's not quite Hots, which is also my honorable mentions list. That's like not quite daring like the R-rated 70s or early 80s like cheerleaders movies, but
it's not like a Disney thing either.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit more naughty than a Disney movie, but not quite Hots. Hot. The Goon movies are recent sports comedies. The rare recent sports comedies. In this case, hockey with Sean William Scott. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Yeah. He's a perfect role for this guy. He's very lovable in these movies, and he of course plays like an enforcer in hockey, and I think he's just really well cast, and it's a kind of a lovable character and a shaggy dog story of this guy who's kind of not so bright, but a really good hockey player. And I had fun. I think my wife really enjoys his movies as well. She really likes his character too. The Scout is a movie that I really appreciate as well. A Michael Ritchie film from the early 90s. Might have been 92. Right. With Albert Brooks and Brendan Fraser. Good sports comedy. I really recommend that one. The Bad News Bears, of course, another Michael Ritchie film. The seminal teen baseball movies. The Mighty Ducks, we watched that. We watched all three Mighty Ducks movies.
Oh, nice.
As a family movie nights. First one is definitely the best, put it that way. And then it's like, it kind of like, to me, it definitely degrades with each one. And by three, I was like, three becomes like a moody teen comedy. It doesn't quite live up to the first film. But I enjoyed the first two for sure. And the kids appreciated the first two. I think my son was more into these movies than my daughter. So we watched all those. Basketball was on my list as honorable mention. I don't know why. It's a silly, dumb movie. Hot Dog the movie, again, silly, dumb movie. Blades of Glory, we rewatched that. And, it's not a great movie, Blades of Glory, but it's fun. I also rewatched Semi-Pro with what's his face? Will Ferrell, and Semi-Pro does not hold up in any way. I thought it was kind of funny when I first saw it, but not a good movie. But Blades of Glory was a funny movie. Aspen Extreme, I watched that. I thought it was a sports comedy. I've seen it before and I liked it. I think it's a good buddy movie, but it's not a comedy because it gets really serious at some point in the movie. People die. The Best of Times was another sports comedy that was written by Ron Shelton, who will be on our list today, of course. And I liked it, didn't love it. I had some problems with it. I thought it could have been a little better. I think Kurt Russell and Robin Williams are great in it. It's another good buddy kind of movie. But they're buddies who are kind of like at odds with each other, have some problems with each other. It's definitely a movie really about football, and it just, I don't know, it kind of lacks a little bit in the directing. It could have been a little bit tighter paced, maybe. That's why I didn't make my list. I wanted it to be better, because the premise is good. Let's see, all the Marlboros mentioned. Then Hots, Angus was on my list. I need to rewatch that again. Airborne was on my list for some reason. And that's it. I'm gonna end it there. There were some movies I previously covered on the podcast, like Back to School, with diving, Happy Gilmore, with hockey. I'm sorry, with golf. Fast Break, the basketball movie from the late 70s with Gabe Kaplan. Love it. Covered it before. Kingpin, covered that before. Fired Up. Bull Durham would definitely be on my list, but I covered that before. And the Teen Wolf movies for sure covered before.
Oh, Right, yeah. I've seen like a handful of all those movies you just mentioned, so I've got a lot of...
I watch a lot of sports movies. Too many, maybe.
It's funny because I watch a lot of sports, but you've definitely got me beat on the movie.
See, I have a lot of time because I don't watch actual sports. I watch sports movies. So. I watch zero sports.
Those sound really good. Yeah,
that's why I get all my sports through sports movies. So I really know what's happening in 1992 sports wise. So.
Oh, 1992 is where it's at for sure.
Let's get to your number 5. Here's a TV spot.
Blind Cinema presents a movie about best friends.
We're closer than sisters. We're cheerleaders.
Boyfriends.
Count Chocula or Trix the Rabbit, who would you be?
Tricks.
I love this lady! And bank robberies.
Are you robbing the supermarket or the bank branch?
It's hard.
On January 26th.
A group of teenage girls are responsible for the bank robberies.
Can you keep the secret?
What the heck is going on here?
We're like celebrities.
Sugar and Spice. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, January 26th.
All right, so my number 5 actually is arguably not a sports comedy, but I just really wanted to talk about this movie, and that is Sugar and Spice from 2001. I'm sure you kind of got the impression from what we were talking about earlier that I'd sort of struggled to settle on a movie for the number 5 spot on my list. And I considered a lot of more like traditional sports comedies, I guess, but I don't, ultimately, like, I don't know. I got like drawn to watching Sugar and Spice again. Maybe it's because I rewatched Bring It On, and it just made me remember this movie. I remember renting this movie. I didn't remember much about it, other than it was, pretty funny, and James Marsden was in it. And a lot of familiar faces among the cheerleaders. So, gosh, I mean, I just felt like giving it a shot, and I was really into it. And it's a movie about a group of cheerleaders who conspire to like rob a bank to support their pregnant head cheerleader, played by Marley Shelton. And I mean, gosh, like it's like there aren't a lot of sports in it. Outside of like a few scenes where James Marsden is seen playing football, and he's like kind of the star quarterback for the team, and it's really fun in that role. But I mean, like I couldn't resist like choosing a movie that like it's got like attractive cheerleaders, it's got a video store, it's got like a lot of physical media. It's got like shots of actual DVDs of movies and stuff in this movie, which makes me really happy. It's got like scenes of like the cheer squad, like researching like bank robbery movies, like Dog Day Afternoon and Heat and Point Break and Reservoir Dogs. I mean, like it's just like, it was just hitting a lot of like notes for me, and I was really enjoying all that. So I mean, I don't know. I was into it. I thought it was really fun. I mean, again, I kind of was tempted to go more traditional, but I thought it'd be fun to sneak some cheerleaders on the list, and this one really stood out to me. What did you think, Meep? Had you seen this before?
I did see this before. I remember enjoying this movie when it came out, and then kind of forgetting about it, and buying the DVD and watching the DVD, enjoying it, and then kind of forgetting about it. So I haven't seen it in a long time. I've had the DVD for a long time, but I haven't watched the DVD in a long time. So this was a good excuse to revisit Sugar and Spice. And is it very nice? It's really nice. I loved Sugar and Spice. It was a lot of fun revisiting it. So I really thank you for that, for making me rewatch this movie. It's fun from beginning to end. It's a short movie. It's like 80-something minutes. It goes by in a breeze. It's well paced. The characters are lovable. It's silly at times, with the idea of them plotting this heist and using movies like Point Break and Heat to to what not to do in a heist. I think it's clever, it's silly and clever, and I think the movie is full of that. It has a lot of fun editing in it, and editing styles and swipes, and just choices that they made. And then with the directorial, it's a female driven movie. It's written and directed by women, and I really appreciated that point of view. It really does come across as a girl movie in the best possible sense, not in a way that's condescending to teenagers. I think it's smart and fun and silly at the same time, and so it has a lot going on. It has a lot of actors that I like, and it's good seeing James Marsden in movies. He's always a bright spot when he shows up on screen. He's very charismatic and
I'm a fan for sure.
So he's always great to watch, and all the girls are great, and I really appreciated that. And it's sassy humor. It's at that period there were some good teen movies coming out. Some of them were a little bit off-putting to me, like Jawbreaker. For some reason, I never connected to that film because it was a little too mean-spirited. This to me is the flip of that, where it's not mean-spirited. The girls are nice, and there's kind of a bitchy character, but then maybe that character might change by the end of the film. Who knows? So it'll melt your heart with its niceness.
That's a good way to look at it. No, that's a good way to look at it for sure.
So I really enjoyed this film. I think it was an unusual pick for a sports comedy, but that's what I appreciated about it, because it's a little bit not quite what you would imagine for this list, but it's a really fun, effervescent film.
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of thinking, as a way to justify it, I was like, all right, so this is a cheer squad, but if it was a men's basketball team doing this, planning a robbery, we'd probably be cool with it, right? So I don't know. I just felt like it's enough. I mean, they're athletes.
Yeah, and they use their athletic skills to help in their bank robbery. So there you go.
And honestly, I thought a lot of times I'll watch the movies that I thought were funny, in the early 2000s or late 90s when I was graduating high school or late in high school, and I'll be kind of embarrassed by a lot of the humor. I'll be like, oof, this is not my thing for sure. But I think other than there was a little bit of fart humor in this that's not really my thing, but other than that, I thought it was really funny. It was just it's twisted enough and just charming enough to where it hit all the right notes. And so one thing I was gonna bring up is who wrote this movie. And it was written by someone named Mandy Nelson. And if you're unfamiliar with Mandy Nelson, it's because she doesn't exist. And it was a pseudonym that was invented for Lana Williams, who wrote Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh my God! It does feel like it. This movie does feel like a cousin of that movie. It really does,
right?
Yeah.
But I wonder what she didn't like about it, what they changed. I have no idea, because I guess she demanded to have her name removed from it, from what I understand. And I really don't know what her original vision was or what was different, but I really do feel like this is her tone to me. Yeah. Just from comparing those movies, at least. So I don't know. I'm a fan. I had a real fun time watching this again. You could see James Marsden's working in a video store, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that stuff is great.
You see a DVD, snap case DVD of Heat on someone's desk and stuff like that. I don't know. There's just so many things that I was just really feeling it. So I don't know if this has got a Blu-ray or anything yet, but I would love to see.
Yeah, just a DVD and. Drop Dead Gorgeous was just announced for Blu-ray from Warner Archive, so maybe Sugar and Spice will get one eventually. I think Drop Dead Gorgeous definitely has more of a cult audience.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. But, maybe more love will come to Sugar and Spice. I think you guys should really give it another shot if you haven't seen it, or if you passed it up, or just haven't thought about it in a long time.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you liked it, buddy.
Thank you. All right, here is my number 5. I'm doing a double feature. I'll be brief with both, so it won't be forever. Here is a TV spot for my first of my double feature.
They had other commitments and other careers.
So that style of dance now would be... Is lap dancing a style?
Let's play some football! But on the field...
Not bad, Falco.
They were out to prove... they belong to each other. Whoa! You're unbelievable. Keanu Reeves, Gene Hackman. That's gonna leave a mark. The Replacements, rated PG-13. Sneak preview this Saturday. Starts Friday, August 11th.
Okay, that was the TV spot for The Replacements, the Keanu Reeves football comedy from 2000. So yeah, I went to 2000. Wow. Usually breaking my rule of not going too much into the 2000s. But you know what? 2000 was 20 years ago, guys. You can now consider The Replacements a classic if you want to. I don't think anyone's going to go out of their way to, because it is pretty silly. Yeah, it's a silly sports, silly football comedy with Keanu Reeves in the lead, playing, of course, the quarterback of this replacement team full of misfits called Shane Falco. His name is actually Shane Falco in this movie, which is a runner-up to his Johnny Utah, of course. I think he actually plays a quarterback from the same
from Ohio
college.
State,
yeah. Both movies from Ohio State, which is kind of funny.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, you're right.
So basically playing the same character. So maybe when Keanu Reeves is not playing football or not scraping barnacle off of his boat, he is an FBI agent.
Yeah.
So he may be in hiding from Patrick Swayze in this movie. Who knows? Yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot when it came out. It was silly. It was like a sports, it was something that I kind of was in the mood for when it came out. It came out in August of 2000, right around my birthday, and I saw it in the theater. I watched it, and then I watched Hollow Man right after it at the Marlboro Theater, which was like right up the block from where I was still living at the time. So I watched those two fun movies and just had a blast. So yeah, I just didn't think about this movie a lot over the years after that, after seeing it in the theater. And then I met my wife, and I found out that she was a big Replacements fan because we watched
that's awesome.
The Replacements a lot over the years, and she loves it. And you know what? It won me over again watching it with her. I thought it was like it's a really silly, fun sports comedy. It's like, it gives me everything I need. Hits all the beats. It has Gene Hackman as the coach, who gives his emotion. Gives his you got to have heart speech, as he loves to do. Yeah. And and I like seeing that band of misfit players and who are not really respected, but have to win over people with their skills. So it has that kind of typical sports movie plots where people are doubting them, doubting how good they are, like kind of like Major League-ish, and then they break out. They show that they have heart and they can play just as good as the regular team, and I really appreciated where the movie went with that stuff. And then it has a relationship. It's also a relationship comedy with him and. What's her name from Meryl's Place? Brooke Langton, who I thought was very cute. And
that's where she's from. Yeah. Right. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I appreciate that aspect of it. Howard Deutsch directed it, the guy who did Some Kind of Wonderful and Pretty in Pink. So there's a bit of that kind of feeling in the movie as well. And so it mixes that along with dumb, silly sports stuff and cliches and all this bad, cheesy speeches, but I loved it. I eat that stuff up because it's not done in a way that's where it's taking it too serious, And so I go back to it a lot with my wife because we enjoy it. So now 20 years old, The Replacements. Have you seen it?
Well, so funny story. My first job in high school was working takeout at this place called Ribs USA in Burbank, California, over here. Mm-hmm. And we didn't deliver like in general as a restaurant, but we made exceptions for like all the businesses that were around us, like walking distance. And one of those places was PhotoCam, which is funny because I always see that come up in the credits of a bunch of movies. It's like a place that processes film or whatever. Yep. So anyways, one of the places we delivered to is Power 106, which is like a hip-hop radio station here in LA. Mm-hmm. And the DJ one time when I made a delivery gave me tickets to the premiere of The Replacements as a tip. And I don't remember why, but I couldn't go. and I don't remember why I couldn't go to the premiere, but I gave the tickets to my friends, and they went and they had like a great time. They had a blast. You know, they took all these pictures back when you like would buy like one of those disposable cameras and print them out, and they brought back all these pictures of like Keanu Reeves and all these people like on the red carpet. And they just, you know, they were talking about how funny it was and how much fun they had, and I was like so like I just resented them. Like I was so upset. I was not happy for them at all, even though I gave them my tickets. Mm-hmm. So I was so disappointed that I refused to watch it. Like I just didn't want to see it, and I didn't watch it until a couple of weeks ago, like just out of protest.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I don't know why. Like, I guess it just didn't really come up a lot. I'm sure I would have gotten over it sooner, but you just kind of gave me that little extra nudge. But I enjoyed it. Like, it kind of felt like the football equivalent of like Major League in a way, where you have, you know, you've got the, like you said, I think you called them like a group of misfits, kind of like a ragtag group of guys that are thrown together. You know, in this case, it's like the replacement players, which, you know, it's kind of loosely based off of like the real NFL player strike. But yeah, I don't know. I had fun with it. You know, I'm glad I finally saw it, so I can say that I got it and can check that off my list.
Yeah, it definitely, for me, it hits up all the good cliches and all the fun cliches of sports movies, and it's a very fun, easy watch. It didn't do very well when it came out, though. I think it made like $44.7 million on a $50 million budget, so it just made its money back worldwide, if you consider the worldwide gross. And but I think over time, it probably did pretty well on home video. It's on Blu-ray, so I have it on Blu-ray. All right, our second movie is not on Blu-ray. Here is the TV spot.
Bailey, you gonna try something new tonight, like trying to coach?
When it came time to pick a coach, he picked the biggest mouth in town, Eddie. Oh, now she's moving and grooving.
You are not a coach. You're not a player looking like a little roach.
And they're slamming and jamming. Whoopi Goldberg.
You don't want to hustle. You don't want to do anything.
Eddie. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, May 31st at a theater near you.
Okay, I went with Eddie. I went with a Whoopi Goldberg movie for my number 5. So you went a little bit off, like, you know, with yours. I kind of went a little bit with this one, but it's very much a sports movie, though, in this case, because it's about a woman who's obsessed with basketball, right? And in this case, the Knicks as a team, and so she's so obsessed with it, and she's kind of like a loudmouth. Like at games, she's always attracting attention because, you know, she's very critical of of the coach of the team and his choices and some of the players and what they do, and it gets her in the spotlight. And the new owner of the team, played by Frank Langella, decides to pick her out of the audience and make her the coach of the team, and which leads to lots of wacky, of course, silly shenanigans, as you'd imagine in a Whoopi Goldberg movie. But I think what happens in this movie that draws me in is because it takes the love of the sport. It doesn't take it seriously, but it's a real love of basketball in this film, and the character really has. So she takes it seriously, and she wants to, you know, be a good coach, and she wants to do a good job, and so it has a lot of that stuff in it. It has a lot of like scenes of her trying to whip this team into shape, and of course lots of silly stuff in the locker room, as you'd imagine with Whoopi in this scenario. It has a lot of real basketball players on the scene. Really does feel like a movie that is on the court. You know, it doesn't feel like it was faked too much. Like, it feels like they really went out of their way to make this one feel like a real basketball games. The games were really well staged, and surprisingly for this kind of movie, you would think it was a little bit more like comparing it to The Fish That Saves Pittsburgh, a movie that I love. This movie stages the games in a much more realistic way, and a much more entertaining way, and really well done, and scenes of the crowds and stuff. So I really like that about it, and it really feels very much like that. Like it's really taking the subgenre of sports and movies and showing a lot of love. And I know it's not a movie that's not immediately thought of with sports comedies, and I wanted to throw at least one of those in there, and that's why I'm putting it here. Sure. And I get a lot of laughs from it, as I do from a lot of these Whoopi Goldberg movies from the 90s. And my wife happens to be also a big fan of Eddie. So we definitely, our tastes definitely line up there with sports comedies, which I thought was interesting while watching these movies. So it's also a comfort movie. It's one of those movies like we watch throw it on, Eddie. Why not? It's for some reason it never got a Blu-ray release. I don't think, maybe because it's not immediately thought of as a special movie from that time period. But I happen to think it is. So, what's your take on Eddie?
Oh, so I mean, it's interesting. Like I honestly can't remember if I'd seen Eddie before. Some of it felt familiar, like especially like towards the end, like there's like a certain twist with Frank Langella's character that like I feel like, oh, I've seen this before, but like I mean, regardless, like I enjoyed it, and I think we gave Whoopi a lot of love when we were talking about Ghost not too long ago. And, she's really good, and she was still really good, and in that kind of groove, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it was funny. Like I enjoyed seeing her like interact with like actual NBA players, which most of them were. But it's it's funny because like again, like I'm someone who like really likes basketball and watches a lot of basketball. So like there were some things that were funny to me, like some of the basketball players were better actors than others, and like it was weird that kind of like all the players on the Knicks, like they weren't actual Knicks players, and they all had like made up names as like these like fictional characters, but like on the opposing teams it was like actual players, like there's like Larry Johnson or whoever, and like so it was just funny. It was like kind of like this like fantasy version of the New York Knicks and the NBA, and it's just, but there's something like just kind of charming about it, and it worked. It really worked. So I think that was a lot of fun, and I did pick up the DVD for this, so I was happy to add it to my collection. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those movies that you will, I don't know, may not hit for everyone, but if you're in the mood for like a 90s Whoopi Goldberg comedy and a sports movie, if you happen to be into the mood for both of those, it's gonna light up for you.
Yeah. It's like I really want to watch a Whoopi Goldberg movie, but I really want to watch a sports movie too. What do I do?
Exactly.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. It's there for you. Directed by Steve Rash, who made some fun movies over the years, like the Buddy Holly story, which got Gary Busey an Oscar nomination. Queen's Logic, a early 90s relationship movie that I really like. Son-in-Law, the Pauly Shore movie, but I actually think it's quite charming and fun. And the teen comedy classic Can't Buy Me Love. He helmed some fun movies there, and I'm a fan. It's another movie that didn't do like very well. It just made its money back. It came out May 31, 1996. It made $31 million at the box office on a $30 million budget, so it just made its money back. And I saw it at the United Artists Sheepshead Bay Theater, along with I saw like 3 movies that day because I snuck into 2 other movies. Twister and The Craft, which might have been the second time that I saw The Craft that day or that weekend. But all 3 fun movies, and Eddie's held up for me, even though it's not talked about at all. So let's
forgot.
Pretty much. Let's get into your number 4. Here's the TV spot.
It can take 10 men. A good scam is 1 part anticipation.
I'd bet $1,000 on it.
What would you bet $2,000 on it?
1 part perspiration.
Getting old on me, you go 15 rounds. You're wheezing like an old goat.
And a whole lot of intimidation.
$1.5 million, or I forfeit and you can kill me right now. Ouch.
James Woods, Louis Gossett Jr., Digstown, rated R. Sneak preview Saturday, August 8th. Opens August 14th.
All right, so my number 4 is a movie called Digstown from 1992. Yes, we mentioned 1992 is going to be
It's got to be a lot now, guys.
Yeah, just brace yourself. But basically, Digstown, I mean, it's about this con man played by James Woods. He was kind of perfect for this role. His name's Gabriel Kane, and he's just been released from prison, and he has like the best like exit ever from prison. And it's a lot of fun. He immediately like goes into a con he's been setting up, and he sets up a bet with this crooked businessman played by Bruce Dern. And the bet is that this like over the hill heavyweight boxer named Honey Roy Palmer can knock out 10 men from this town, from Digstown, that are handpicked by Bruce Dern's character in a boxing ring. It's a boxing movie. So he has to knock them out 10 men within like 24 hours. And it's not as like straightforward as that sounds. Probably like there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's definitely like I'm trying to think of what to compare it to. It's kind of, there's like better movies that are kind of like this, like The Sting comes to mind. As far as these kinds of cons and the kind of twists and turns that you go on, but there's something like I don't know. There's just something about Digstown that really appeals to me. I think a lot of it is just the cast, like James Woods and Bruce Dern and Louis Gossett Jr., Oliver Platt. Like, they're all just kind of perfect. And, you can also see, like, Heather Graham and, like, Jim Caviezel in, like, really early roles. And, the humor just, it's, again, like, there's, like, one kind of, like, gross out gag that, like, involves, like, giving one of the boxers, like, brown water to, like, kind of mess with their stomach. And again, that kind of stuff's like, it's just not really my kind of humor. But other than that, like, I was like really into the humor in this movie. I was laughing. I was like cheering. Like, there was some like kind of twists towards the end when I was watching it that I'd forgotten about. And I was really on board. Like, I was like, I really found myself kind of cheering along, which you don't really do a whole lot when you watch as many movies as we do. So, I don't know. And it has some comedic chops behind the camera too. It's directed by Michael Ritchie, who did Fletch and Fletch Lives and The Golden Child, and another movie that's going to come up on your list possibly. So one thing I found out while researching this was he followed up Digstown with a movie called The Positively True Adventures of the Alleged Texas Cheerleader Murdering Mob. And I've never seen it before, but now I have to. So that's going to be, on my list. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Digstown. I feel like it's kind of forgotten about. And I think you mentioned you hadn't seen it for a really long time, so I'm curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one since the theater, and I remember enjoying it at the theater. I remember it being a movie that came out, I want to say like in August or so of that year, kind of dumped a little bit, thinking that it might not be, a movie that would do well. And I'm not sure how well it did at the box office, but it was kind of a sleeper. I remember thinking, this is a really entertaining movie, actually. I don't know why they're just kind of dumping it. And we're watching it this time. At first, I was like, this movie's going to be a bit depressing and dark. Like, is this a comedy? Are we sure this is a comedy?
Sure. There's a few spots, right?
There were like some parts where it was kind of funny, but then like some real tough stuff happens in this movie. And it's challenging. Yeah. It challenges me, like, to, like, oh, is this a comedy or not? Like, some really, like, real dark stuff happens. And then I'm like, oh, I see. It's really kind of going for an aesthetic that wasn't happening in 1992. This is going for like a 70s vibe. This is a movie that could be like a 70s movie. This is where things, their beats are not exactly, not everything's played exactly for laughs. It doesn't go for the easy route. There's some really dark, like I said, dark stuff that happens. It has a different bunch of tones running throughout it. And characters' motivations are not always clear. And your heroes are not always, like, super moral. Or sometimes they're pretty amoral, like James Woods' case in this movie. Right. You're, like, always questioning the motivations. They're not exactly pure, right? And that goes for all the characters. And certainly Bruce Dern is, like, a villain among villains in this movie. Like, he's such a terrible person. Awful person. He's so good. But he's Bruce Dern. You like him because it's like you still want to like him because it's Bruce Dern, but he's doing such awful things.
Oh, he's despicable. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got really frustrated, like, cause like, oh man, I hate this guy, but I really like this guy, and then like James Woods, of course, and his current persona. So that's a challenge in itself. Trying to like James Woods is the lead in this movie.
I was worried that might be a problem. I was like,
it was problematic, but at the same time, it was like an interesting challenge to watching it. And then of course, but then you have Louis Gossett Jr. coming in at the right time, and you immediately loved Louis Gossett Jr. as a character, and he's going to have a lot of heart, fantastic. And he's going to bring a lot of gravitas to the performance, and he does, and so I was like a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and I was like really like as it kept going and going, I'm like, fell more and more deeper into appreciation for what it was trying to do, what it was doing, and how it was working, and how, like, even though some things were going against the grain of maybe conventional entertainment, I think it was doing it really well, and so I really appreciated this movie and really enjoyed watching it this viewing, and I have definitely a newfound appreciation for Diggstown. It really feels like a movie that was trying a bit. Going for the sports movie in a different way in 1980. There were so many sports movies in 1982, but this was going for a different kind of feel, and I appreciated it's like in the way where it went, and the payoff was great, and I really liked that. It just hit the right notes and in interesting ways for me. So I was really down for this movie at the end of it.
Awesome.
When you find yourself really cheering for characters by the end of the movie, the movie's really won you over. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, there's one, like, kind of last twist that I was really cheering. Mm-hmm. Like, I was so much. So, yeah. No, it's a really fun movie. I didn't even know that Kino Lorber Studio Classics had put it out until now. So that was cool. But it's a movie I'm a fan of. I just didn't realize it had gotten like a more recent release like that. So it's pretty cool. It's just funny. The thing with James Woods, same thing when I was watching Cat's Eye, because he's really good in the Quitters Incorporated segment. I was like, oh, I know so many people hate him now, and like I feel guilty, but like I just still love like watching him in all these movies. Like, he's so good at what he does. So I don't know. I guess my brain's gotten better at just kind of shutting all that stuff off. But I hope that other people can still enjoy this too.
Mm-hmm. I think Diggstown, give it a chance, guys. It's gonna win you over, I have a feeling. All right, so that's your number 4. Here is the TV spot for my number 4, which is deeply connected to yours.
Goldie's team, the Wildcats. What they lack in skill, they make up for.
You're in training as of right now. Put that out.
With nerve.
Your mama said you ugly, huh?
How did your folks let you get like this?
He probably ate his folks.
You make this point and every girl in the free world will want you.
Goldie Hawn tackles the impossible.
Are you sure I'm the right person for this job?
Wildcats, rated R. Special advance preview Saturday, February 8th.
Okay, Wildcats. We're going from boxing to football, but this was also directed by Michael Ritchie, who helmed Diggstown. And when watching Diggstown, I totally forgot it was a Michael Ritchie movie, by the way. I forgot he did another sports movie. He did quite a few sports movies over the years. Like, he's kind of almost the king of sports movies. Besides Ron Shelton, I feel like Michael Ritchie really deserves a lot of credit and love for sports movies. He started with Downhill Racer in 1969, the skiing film, and then he did Bad News Bears, sports movie, Semi-Tough. I talked about that earlier in my honorable mentions. That football comedy. He did that. He did Wildcats. He did Diggstown and The Scout, which I also mentioned. That baseball movie. So he did quite a few movies over his career that were sports related, and all good films. So Michael Ritchie, really appreciate you. Wildcats is very much a Michael Ritchie sports comedy, but also very much a Goldie Hawn movie. So,
absolutely.
Like I mentioned, if you were in the mood for a Whoopi Goldberg movie and a sports movie, you got it with Eddie. If you're in the mood for a Goldie Hawn movie, happen to be in the mood for a Goldie Hawn movie and a sports movie, you get it with Wildcats. Even more so as a sports, I think that they really meld well together in this one, where she becomes the coach, much like Whoopi Goldberg becomes the coach of a team in an unlikely scenario. What seems like an unlikely scenario, but why not, right? Scenario where she's someone who really loves the sport and grew up with the sport around her, but because she's a woman is not taken seriously, and even by her ex-husband and by all the men in her life and people in her life don't quite take her seriously. But she gets her chance to coach a team at the toughest football team in I want to say the south side of Chicago, somewhere really gritty and tough, and somewhere where the team isn't a good team. They're like last place kind of team, and a lot of players who are just not taking it seriously, don't care, and she gets to whip them into shape, as the coaches do in these movies, and show that she can do it. She can do her job like anyone else, like any man can do it. It's very much a feminist take on that, but not in a way that is overbearing. It really is Goldie Hawn in her all her bright energy and whatever she brings to film, and that special quality she brings to film. It's really on display here, but in such a fun way. I mean, she really seems like she's in over her head, but then she, as a good coach could really take this again band of misfits and whip them into shape and make them into a team that can possibly have a shot at winning. And it again follows a lot of those cliches of sports movies, but I like the additional dimension of being a teen. High school football or is it college? No, it's high school football, and kids who don't seemingly care about the sport, but then are thrown together in a situation, and because of her love for it, they find a new appreciation for it. And there's a lot of great comedic moments in this film that, of course, with her, but also through the teammates themselves. You have Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson in their first pairing, and maybe not the first, and definitely not the last on this list. They show that they really shine together in this movie, and then really exploit that in later films together. I love a lot of the players on the team. I think a lot of them are really well cast, and taking a lot of personalities and mixing them together and seeing what you get kind of scenario. And I think it really kind of works for me. It's an R-rated comedy, so there's it's not afraid to go into certain places with that, but it's never like super offensive in any way. I think anyone could watch, like a family could watch this movie if they're really into sports. Robin Lively from Teen Witches in this movie.
Yes, that's right.
She's a daughter.
That's her daughter.
And I feel like she showed up in a couple of movies where she just plays the daughter, and she's like around this time period. I was watching.
Yeah, I love Robin Lively.
She was like in this, and I'm trying to think of what the other movie was at the time where she's also the daughter, and she just kind of shows up. It'll come to me eventually, but it's just fun seeing seeing oh my god, I'm blanking now. Scotch is really hitting me. It's really fun seeing Goldie Hawn as a football coach, and really just living it up as his character, and who has a lot of heart and a lot of passion for football. And a lot of the movie goes, you see a lot of the football, but it also shows you her behind the scenes drama with her ex-husband trying to take custody of her kid, and that stuff is never too dramatic where it feels like a court movie. There's some of that kind of mediation scenes in the film. It doesn't feel like it's not Kramer versus Kramer heavy kind of movie.
No,
it's a right touch in all the drama, which is really shows you the skill that's on hand by director Michael Ritchie. Really skillful director of handling some of that.
The stakes a little bit, yeah. No,
it does.
Exactly.
It does raise the stakes. Exactly. Good way. Good point there. And I love this movie. I watch it a lot, and it really just brightens my day when I do. And again, another movie that I found out my wife was a big fan of when we were dating. So I'm like, oh, it worked. There you go.
She's the keeper. Yeah, there you go.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I own this movie. I'm a fan of this movie. If you hadn't picked it, I might have been tempted to pick it myself. I really enjoyed it. I hadn't seen it for a long time. But I really like the way that she won the team over. By kind of, they just didn't take her seriously at all or respect her at all. And one day she was just like, all right, I'll quit if you guys, do this. Like, she kind of like challenged them to like run with her around the track. And she's like, if I quit first, then I'm done. I'm gone. You guys can have another coach, But if I can outlast all you guys, then you got to start listening to me and respecting me. And it's just really fun. It's so cool. It's believable. She was a track coach before at the school she was at previously. She comes off as athletic. Again, I love that she's like the daughter of a football coach, so she just kind of grew up with that in her blood. And it's just really fun. I love that scene. I love the way she wins them over. And I think the last one standing with her is Wesley Snipes, which is fun, but even he can't keep up with her at the end. And it's just, I don't know. It's just a really charming movie. I'm blanking on the name of the kind of like the antagonist, I guess for lack of a better term, like the opposing coach from her old school that kind of set her up to fail at this job. But he's really good in his role too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As just someone you kind of hate. And then her, I don't know. It's just really well cast. It's a really fun movie. Like you said, a lot of those people on the team might not be as big of names as like Woody Harrelson or Wesley Snipes, but they're all really good at their roles, and it's really fun. So I feel like, gosh, I mean, I probably should have like ran this by you before, but I feel like in lieu of like actually talking about this movie, I would rather just play like the rap from this movie. And like I love it. I feel like you should insert it somewhere here because it's just so good. And I remember messaging you like right when I got to that part, and I was like, I never bother you about like put this song, put that song. But like, I was like, this needs to be in this episode. So yeah, I don't know, just a really fun movie. I'm all for it. Yeah.
I saw it at the Marlboro Theater, which again was up the block from where I lived. I think I remember seeing the same day the Delta Force. So that was an interesting double feature. It came out February 14th, so Valentine's Day. Definitely a good Valentine for me. It made $26 million at the box office, so like a nice sum for this kind of movie at the time, though not quite the hit like Private Benjamin was for her.
Right.
So yeah, to me, I really was a big Wildcats fan. So I'm happy it's here on the list, and I got to talk about it a bit. And I think we should take a break. So this might be a good time to hear a certain song. So we'll be back right after this.
Wildcats. I say they call me Tremaine, the ebony lover. I validate the theory when I'm under the cover.
It's the spoiled kings, metal and diamond rings.
Football.
My name's Tarula, I'm a real bad dude, making sounds and noises that are certainly rude. But when we're on the field, my noises aren't art like a or a plain old bar.
It's the Spoiled Kings, better than diamond rings.
Football.
I was leader of the team for about a week. My specialty was the quarterback sneak. I was acting, attack, my bag for pack. When I got the word in the form of a bird, you know now.
Better than diamond rings.
Football.
We once were a team that never could mesh it, but now we're something fresher than fresh.
You think we're jamming, and that's a fact. Everybody say, Wildcat, 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 Wildcat.
It's the Spoiled Kings, better than diamond rings.
Football.
Molly's little girls and no other sucker made a banner that was a bad mother.
Don't cuss.
Not us.
It's the Spoiled Kings, better than diamond rings.
Football.
Ha ha ha, my name is Finch, and as you know, I used to sit on the bench. Money, food, and necessities of life, those are the things that keep me nice. But when I don't get them, I go berserk and act just like a 400-pound jerk.
Beat this out as soon as you can. We're just kicking it around, my man.
It's the Spoiled Kings, better than diamond rings. Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
I got it.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
Wildcat.
Football.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that rap. And let's hear your TV spot for your number 3.
We just fought one of your best baseball players.
There's no way I'm gonna play in Japan.
He is very big.
What do you think of our country?
I hate this place.
Very smart.
I need somebody to tell me how to go to the can.
And very funny.
Do the hokey pokey! Turn yourself around!
And if you take him back soon, you make us very happy.
Why? I look good.
Mr. Baseball, rated PG-13, starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
All right, so my number 3 is Mr. Baseball from 1992. I mean, I'm sure people are kind of scratching their head because this is another movie that's not very high profile. But I mean, I'm a fan, and it could have like easily been one of those like one-note comedies. Basically, well, let me kind of explain the premise since it's not like a super well-known movie, probably. You've got this aging baseball star who's traded to Japan. He's traded overseas, and the comedy kind of comes from him like being really stubborn and kind of like navigating his way through Japanese culture. And like, you know, it could have, it could have just been like, that's it. And the comedy is that he's like really tall and everyone's really short and everything is really short and he's bumping his head and stuff like that. And just not adjusting to the culture. But I think there's like, if you're patient with this movie, I think there's a lot more to it than that. And it's really rewarding. It's got a lot of those like fish out of water elements. Like kind of like what I mentioned, but it's all handled really well. And you know, I should mention like the lead is played by Tom Selleck, who I'm a big fan of, and he plays this character Jack Elliott, and he comes off as really unlikable. I'd say for like a good chunk of this movie, he's just kind of like that ugly American stereotype. Really disrespectful to this culture that he's, you know, needs to integrate himself to, kind of just refusing to do so. He comes off as pretty pompous. It's kind of hard to like get invested in a movie like that, I think, for some people, where you're not really feeling the protagonist. But I don't know. I think that's why I think it kind of takes some patience, and why the comedy's like a little bit different. It's not as much. It's not as overt, I guess. It's kind of like a little bit more, I don't know, like subtle, and you just kind of have to go along for the ride, and it's more of like a feel-good kind of comedy. And I really think it pays off really well. I think that Tom Selleck, who, I mean, I give him kudos because he's like a really charming, like charismatic guy. So the fact that he was kind of able to make himself unlikable and kind of pompous for like a big chunk of this movie, I think it's a really good job by him. But yeah, I don't know, he kind of goes through a journey, and it's just a really fun movie to watch. He has like a romance between this Japanese love interest. It's like kind of sweet and charming, and I love his relationship with her father, who happens to be the coach, who's played by Ken Takakura, who was known as the Japanese Clint Eastwood in his time. He's kind of like a real like no nonsense tough guy, and I don't know, he was great as like this like stern baseball manager, and he kind of has to do some growth of his own in this movie. Yeah, so I don't know, I really love this movie. I think this is the one I kind of alluded to earlier when I mentioned that there was another baseball movie I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I don't know. I love kind of seeing like the great American pastime, baseball, through this Japanese lens. And I think the movie does a really good job of focusing on that and kind of showing you like the crowd, like, eating noodles and stuff like that, like things you don't usually see at sporting events out here. And just kind of like the different, different little quirks to the game. And I loved it. I don't know. I thought it was great. And, it's got some chops behind it too, I guess. It was directed by Fred Shepsey, if I'm saying that right, who directed, the Steve Martin and Daryl Hannah, classic Roxanne. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a really good movie, and I think it's a movie that is kind of forgotten about, and I just wanted to shed some light on it. What did you think of this one, Meep?
I don't know why I didn't see this one in the theater or on home video for some reason. I don't know. For some reason, I didn't gravitate towards this movie when it came out. Sure. Maybe the title, Mr. Baseball, doesn't sound like something that I want to watch. Right. So, and I thought I had watched it at some point in my life, but I didn't. As it turns out, no, I have not seen this movie. So I watched it. Oh, cool. So I watched it recently, and like I said, it has a good pedigree behind it. It has the director of Roxanne, which I thought is a really good film. It has the writers Gary Ross, who wrote Big and directed Pleasantville. It has Kevin Wade, who wrote Working Girl, also on the screenplay. And so I watched the film, and I don't know, I could not get into this movie. I really tried. But I did not like his character at all. Tom Selleck. I felt like he was a jerk from the beginning to really almost the end of the movie. I mean, yeah, he starts like they want you to like him at some point in this movie, but I never felt like I felt that switch. It never felt authentic to me. When he turns and becomes like suddenly a good guy because he has a romance with the coach's daughter, I'm like, it doesn't really quite click to me. Like, how is that going to make him a nice guy? Where he's like suddenly like playing the game on their terms, but also his own. He never really seems to give up much of his attitude and his Americanness. Like, he really does. It really seems to like. He doesn't really relent really that much, and he seems to be rewarded for it in this movie. I don't know. I really could not get into his character. Maybe it's because I know too much about Tom Selleck, the person. I've heard a lot of like negative things about him. over the years and how he is. Actually, you know, this is something I'll talk about. Like, I heard from an actor, a well-known actor's lips. I worked with this actor on a film, and if I said his name, you would know him immediately. He told me that he has Tom Selleck has a reputation on productions that he does not want anyone to look him in the eyes, and he instructs the crew to not look him in the eyes. And if he does, if anyone does that, they're like out of there. It's like, really? I'm like, the guy who's like working currently on Blue Bloods has this condition where no one can look at him. Like, come on. It's like,
but he was in Runaway. I can't.
Who the fuck cares? Like, man, like that you're on Blue Bloods. I don't know. So maybe that part of that is like hindering my enjoyment of Mr. Baseball, but I could not get into. I know it's a culture shock comedy, and I just didn't feel like it was earned a lot of because it is so much of his character is the movie that I just cannot, and because I could not connect to him, I just cannot. Yeah, this is I struggled with this one. I really did.
No, that's okay. I kind of, honestly, I had a feeling this was kind of like a tough sell. That's why I was kind of trying to preface it with all that. But I don't know. I think it's all there. It's the what's that movie called? Lost in Translation of baseball movies.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I really do. And I did think that he kind of redeems himself and goes on a journey, but I could see where it's not. I mean, again, it's a sports comedy. It's not super realistic, I guess, kind of like where those changes come from and how it happens. And he's such a jerk for like a huge part of this movie that you kind of hate him and you just want him to like stop embarrassing you and like stop embarrassing America and everything else. But I don't know. I was all for it. So yeah, but no, that's totally cool. I think it's fun when we kind of don't see eye to eye on every single movie. So that I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, I mean that's the only time I've ever seen that movie. So that's it might be the only time I ever watch it because it turned me off so much. But that's my hot take on Mr. Baseball. I was also always offended by the poster of that movie. Like, he's like this huge Godzilla, and it's like, Asians are like, running from him. Like, it felt racist to me.
Honestly,
and the movie the movie actually does feel racist to me a bit. I don't know. It really does not feel. It's so much about him. It's so much about the white guy in an Asian country, and then the other major character of this movie is Serrano again returning.
That's right.
Is Dennis Haysbert returns, and he's
like the other American.
He's the other American. So he's the only other major character of the team who gets much of a character, and he's of course an American.
Yeah.
And I kind of like. I'd rather watch a movie about Dennis Haysbert in Japan. Like, what would that be like? A person of color in Japan. Like that. I feel that, and he's a nice guy. So I want to see that movie.
He actually adjusts and he kind of adapts to their ways, and he's respectful.
Yeah,
and,
maybe there's not a lot of drama from that situation though.
He's from another country. Yeah. He's not like an a-hole about it like Tom Selleck necessarily, but I don't know. I get it for sure. I get where you're coming from, but I like it. And I think they kind of played up the whole ugly American thing. I think. Oh yeah, sure.
To your credit, they definitely do. He's definitely an ugly American. He's just too much of an ugly American for me to enjoy it. That's all. A little too much for me.
Totally cool. Yeah, I get it.
All right, my number 3. Let's see, what do I got here? Here's the TV spot.
$500, baby, and you can pick my teammate.
Give him the chump.
You mean play basketball?
It's not about black.
Oh, it's hard work being this good.
It's not about white.
How much money did you make today?
I miss you too.
It's about green. Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson.
I only have 4 words for you. White men can't jump.
Will you explain to this Gladys Knight and the pimps?
It's pimps! The pimps!
Rated R. Starts Friday, March 27th at theaters everywhere.
Okay, I'm going back to basketball with this one with white men Can't Jump. I had to pick a Ron Shelton movie because he's kind of the king of sports movies. And I really liked White Men Can't Jump when it came out in the spring of 1992. I thought it was another 1992 movie. There we go. I thought it was really funny. Of course, this one pairs Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson again. This time, hustlers on the basketball courts of everywhere. In this case, it's L.A. and they're just hustling and making some money, and they're kind of living, hand to mouth, and they're kind of struggling, and they're trying to make lives for themselves. Like it charts a relationship between these two guys who are seemingly at odds with each other, but also their relationships with their wives or girlfriends. In this case, Woody Harrelson and Rosie Perez, and then of course Wesley Snipes with his wife. And shows you their ups and downs there, but also a lot of it is, again, on the courts. And a lot of basketball is played. A lot of hustling is happening. So it's a little bit of like Digstown with the hustling going on there, mixed with like a pure kind of sports kind of movie and relationship movie. A lot kind of going on. A lot of fires going on there. But Ron Shelton is a really good. If anyone's going to be thought of as a person who makes movies about sports and relationships, it's Ron Shelton, of course, best known for doing Bull Durham, and here it's his bit of doing a basketball film, and I think the basketball is really well shot and really well handled and taken very seriously. It's not like a joke. It's not played for laughs. Again, the sport. It's really all the laughs that come from this movie are character based and coming from the natural comedic chops of Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. You may, a lot of people may think of Wesley Snipes now as an action star because of his Blade films and all the action films he starred in, but he was really funny in his early career. He's really funny in Wildcats, which I think might have been one of his first movies, and he's really funny here. I mean, he's just a naturally funny guy. He's really funny in Tu Wong Fu, which we talked about not too long ago. I just always found him to be a very funny guy, and I really, really wish he would do more comedies. And the pairing of the two, of course, is gold with these two guys, and of course playing the racial stereotypes of the kind of doofy white guy in a sport that is seemingly dominated by African American men, and of course on these particular courts, just hustling people and wringing a lot from that situation. I found really well done and really entertaining, and of course Woody Harrelson's on the run from some tough guys who he owes money to, so there's that plot which you've seen a lot in movies, but here it's played pretty entertainingly. And of course his relationship, another angle of this movie is the relationship he has with Rosie Perez and her quest to be on Jeopardy, which takes this movie takes some fun turns with that. And every time I watch this film, I forget how good it is. Like, I'm like, oh man, this movie is like really got me. It's so much fun from beginning to end, and there's a lot going on, but it's it like really sucks you in, and you're in it to win it in this case. And I love it. I really do love it. I feel like he should be even higher on my list, but I want to keep that 92 momentum going for now. And I'm a big fan of this movie, and just really wanted to hear what your thoughts are on it.
Oh, sure. So I guess I'd kind of forgotten about how good it is too, and not just as like a sports comedy, but like as a LA movie. Mm-hmm. And I, as someone who's lived in LA, since '93, and who's worked in a lot of these kind of neighborhoods that they were hustling in as a social worker, on the street and stuff. Like I don't know, I was really digging it. I was really feeling a lot of the locations. is obviously this is a different era than me working there in the 2000s. But it's just really fun kind of seeing things through this lens and following these characters. I'd forgotten that this is where We're Going to Sizzler originated, which is just a little bit at the beginning, because that's something that like we all kind of said a lot like on the playground in the 90s. And like I totally forgot this is where it came from. I thought it had a great soundtrack too. Actually, I was really into the soundtrack, and I mean, it's a good movie. It's a great movie, I would say. I think that, I mean, you have to just kind of accept a lot of stuff towards the end that gets kind of contrived, I guess, with like the Jeopardy stuff and some other stuff. But it's like almost feels like a different movie. That I wasn't like as into that stuff as much maybe, but like I still thought it was great. And they're such a good pair that, I mean, I'll just say like, I actually love, Money Train too, even though I think like people don't really even remember that movie. But, I think I love that movie, but I think it's clearly like someone just said like, oh, these guys were so good together, let's try to do it again. And it's it's just like trying to recapture that magic, and it's something that you just don't you can't really duplicate, because the way that their relationship is kind of formed here, and the kind of fun like conning each other and twists and turns, and the way their trust kind of builds after betraying each other a bunch of times. I don't know. It's just kind of different. It's like a different vibe here. So, I don't know. I'm glad you picked it. Again, this is a movie I hadn't seen for a long time. I kind of put off rewatching it towards like a little bit later in the month, as we're kind of winding down to when we wanted to record, just because I felt like, I've seen this movie a million times. Like it just didn't really like appeal to me. But once I started watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this movie's really good. So thumbs up for me for sure.
I'm glad. It really does hold up well in each viewing, and I feel like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh man, I need to watch this movie more because it's just so good.
For sure.
I just really appreciate a movie that can really care about its characters so much. I think Ron Shelton's really big on that in his movies. You really sense that he really cares deeply about these people who are, sometimes some of them are there, like in this case with Woody Harrelson being such a fuck up. And some of his broken male characters in his other movies who are either going over the hill or just not just want to recapture that glory. You see that in a lot of these movies and throughout different sports. he covers all these sports in these movies, different movies, and so well. But I think it really crystallizes really well here in White Men Can't Jump, and it feels authentic. It feels like they're really, playing these games. And I think part of that's because Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson trained, and they got really good. And I think they did a lot of their own. They did most of their own basketball playing, and that really comes across.
It looked like it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a part of what makes this movie special. It really does take that sports and just doesn't try to shortcut it. It doesn't feel like it's Hollywood phony faked sports. It really feels like two guys are really playing sports and really hustling on the courts in LA. So that's the majority of the film. So it really works. And I really did. I know you had a problem with the jump of the Jeopardy stuff, but I feel like, because it's so character-based that it went in that direction. I kind of appreciate that it kind of went in a little direction, because it really was a wake-up call for Woody Harrelson's character, who, again, is such a fuck-up in this movie, that I liked that it went there with that relationship, and it didn't quite pay off exactly what you thought it was going to. Like, it just kind of went in another way. I just thought there was another... another dimension. And and in Money Train, his character again, Woody Harrelson's playing a fuck up, and I like where
those money and his
So I kind of like that dynamic between the two of them, where Wesley is the character who's a little more level headed, takes it a little bit more seriously. But again, in this movie, conning each other, which is a fun element too. I really like that. Love where it goes with that stuff. So great movie, and I'm glad I could talk about it. Another 1992 movie. Let's get into our number twos. More 92. Here it is. What do we got? We have a double feature. I see.
That's right. I've got a double feature, buddy. Both from 92.
Both from 92. So let's play the first one. Here it is.
To get the girl of his dreams,
I need your help.
Well, let me think about it, Chester.
Matthew will have to dress right.
Hey, now, no ladybug.
Martha.
Stay cool.
What is this, a drag race?
You're my best friend.
You must have a girl problem.
You don't know I'm a boy.
And never flip his wig.
You gotta act like a lady.
Rodney Dangerfield.
I'm here to pick up my daughter Martha.
Ladybugs.
Get in the car quick, these hills are killing me.
Rated PG-13. Now playing at theaters everywhere.
All right, so that was for the Ladybugs, which, as we mentioned, is from 92. So, gosh, how do you describe Ladybugs? You've got Rodney Dangerfield, of course, the legendary Rodney Dangerfield, playing Chester Lee, who's how do you I'm trying to think how to describe him. Irrepressible salesman. He's so determined to impress his boss and climb the corporate ladder, even though he's probably in his 70s at this point.
Should be retiring. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. But he's engaged to get married. All these things that you just don't expect someone at that age. But hey, it's Rodney Dangerfield. It's all right. And he volunteers to coach the company-sponsored girls' soccer team. That it's not only company-sponsored, his boss's daughter is on the team. And he just thinks it's a good way to kind of get on his good side and, win him some favor. But the team is just terrible. So he recruits his fiance's son, Matthew, and dresses him up as a girl. And
as you do,
it presents him as a girl named Martha to kind of lead the team to victory. And oh my God, it's just like what can I say about Ladybugs? Like it's so I mean, obviously I saw this movie as a kid. When this came out, I was playing youth soccer. Actually, I played AYSO soccer, so. Right away, like there was just so many things that struck a chord with me. I was just the right age. I was kind of in this world, and this was probably my first exposure to Rodney Dangerfield, possibly even. And it's just watching it now. It's with 2020 lenses on. It's just so offensive and crude and. It's the humor is so bad. There's so much I don't know what to call pedophilia humor. And all this it's so wrong. So much stuff that's going on here, but it's so funny. And I feel so this made me feel fortunate to be raised in that era. You know what I mean? I just I was that's so cool that I saw this movie when I was 9. Mm-hmm. And they just don't make stuff like this anymore. And there's Rodney Dangerfield makes so many inappropriate jokes in this movie. There's so many funny moments of people just kind of getting the wrong impression of him, trying to help. I didn't even mention the Martha Matthew is played by Jonathan Brandis. But there's so many inappropriate moments where Rodney Dangerfield's helping him in a dressing room at one point.
Oh my God.
And it's don't tell your mom about this. And oh my God, it's just so wrong. And I mean, again, this is me. I was a social worker. You know what I mean? I have this background and all this stuff. And I even thought all this stuff was hilarious. So I don't know. It's really wrong, but it's really good. And I'm just a big fan, and I knew Jonathan Brandis from the It miniseries as a kid, which is crazy because like that movie was like the talk of the playground. And again, like this is like I was living in Utah at the time, like Salt Lake City, Utah, and like that was a movie that I remember, miniseries, I guess, that I remember like all the kids talking about, which is so funny now looking back at it. I'm like, wow, like that's crazy that we were all like so interested in that and scared and excited to like talk about that, and like so, I was a fan, and like this was like kind of my first exposure to him outside of that, maybe, and then. Oh no! Actually, wasn't he in Neverending Story? Or no, he's in Neverending Story
Part 2,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think I probably saw him in that also. And then, what year was Neverending Story 2? Sorry, I should have looked that up.
I want to say like 1990.
Yeah, I think you're right. So that was probably before this too, right? Okay. So anyways, that's probably like, this is one of my early exposures to Jonathan Brandis, who's a big star, he was kind of like a heartthrob for a lot of the girls, including my wife, of our generation, who, unfortunately his story is pretty tragic, but we don't need to get into that. But yeah, I mean, he was on a roll here, and like Rodney Dangerfield was great. And you mentioned Hocus Pocus earlier, so this has Vanessa Shaw, who was like one of my many, childhood crushes that I talk about all the time, but I thought she was a babe, even in this. And Hocus Pocus, and there's like a really inappropriate like alternate like VHS artwork. I don't know if you've seen it for this movie, where she's holding like two soccer balls up over her chest.
I think I posted it on Facebook.
Yeah. And Rodney Dangerfield are like peering over her shoulders. I'm like, oh my god, like what? Like how did this stuff get passed? Like what? This is a kids movie. And, like, it's just so bad. And, like, there's even, like, a scene where Jonathan Brandis is, like, fantasizing about her. And she's, like, running in, like, a really, like, revealing, like, bikini. Basically, like, I guess soccer form bikini and stuff. And it's, like, I mean, it's just, they just don't do stuff like that now, obviously.
What's the tagline? A comedy with balls? Like, really?
Yes, exactly. Oh, my God. How did I forget to mention that? So... Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I love this movie. I mean, it's directed by the guy who like directed like The Entity. I mean, come on. And Iron Eagle and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, Sidney Fury. So.
The classics, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about range. But I don't know. I have a feeling Rodney Dangerfield had a lot of free range in this, but
it's definitely a Rodney movie.
This was, I just had so much fun rewatching this. It was funny because I kind of thought it was like going to be more family friendly, so I put it on actually with like the family around, and my wife was giving me all these like looks and like comments and like, this is not appropriate. And like, luckily a lot of it's like going over my daughter's head, and my son's just a baby still, so I was like kind of in the clear, but I was like, yeah, it's a little bit riskier than I remembered, but it's so good. So I don't know. I love this movie. I was tempted to even put it at my number one spot, but I couldn't. There was something else I had to put on there. But yeah, I rambled on enough. What did you think of Ladybugs?
Oh, holy fuck! What can I say? It's Ladybugs. Yeah, this movie is batshit. What can I say? It's a Rodney movie, but it's also a kids movie. It's like the melding of the two was never going to be a holy union. It's a quite unholy union in the best possible sense, though. I mean, it's like, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's silly. It's crazy. It's weird. It's inappropriate. It's all those things. So of course I had to put it on for family movie night. And,
sweet.
And it went over really well.
Oh, awesome.
It went over well for family movie night. Everyone enjoyed it. Recognized there was some questionable stuff going on, but I don't think it scarred anyone at the same time. It was because it's mostly silly, right? It's mostly like humor that's kind of like playful, silly, not quite totally innocent, but there's jokes in there that are definitely old men writing bad jokes, right?
Yeah.
And how does that feel? Sure. Like a dirty old man writing bad jokes. So thinking it's funny, and I grew up with a lot of those kinds of movies. Definitely lots of movies like that. If you ever see the movie Wacko, you'll know. Yeah, there's that. There's a lot of that kind of humor. It's just it's really inappropriate and wrong, and entertaining. And a bright spot of this movie, besides Rodney and his humor, is the pairing of him and Jack A. I mean, they're great together. Yes. They are a real dynamite team in this movie. There should have been more Rodney Jack A movies. Gotta be honest.
Yes, agreed.
I love that pairing. I love they have like a musical scene together. Like it's so good. I found that really entertaining. And yes, the infamous scene at the dressing room, the dressing room scene was just like, I think it's a scene that's definitely scarred some people, or at least they've talked about it over the years. I've seen memes of it. I've seen clips of it. Where that scene is definitely a highlight of what a weird movie, what a weird thing to have in a kids movie. There's definitely questionable choices left and right, but so entertaining. The sports is there. It's like he has to take a team that he doesn't
talk about the sports.
He doesn't quite, he's not quite a sports person, but he's, he wants his job and he wants to impress the boss, and somehow, I guess through the magic of his girlfriend's son's ability, is going to whip this team into shape. A lot of it has to do with his ability, and then the team has to learn how to play together as a team, and not just rely on his power, right? And his ability. And so there's a little bit of that cliche there, and of course having that age-old body, not body switch, but like the gender switch thing going on here. Very barely. I don't know. Jonathan Brandis does pass. He had very feminine features, so it wasn't too questionable. Although some of the wig choices look pretty fake.
The wig is so
fake, but he does. He very
boys.
It was. It's odd. It's odd. I thought that was the way they barely disguised him, but. It was fun to watch all that stuff at the same time. I do really get into those movies and how silly they are.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that, but you're a big fan of one of the guys, right? So
just one of the guys, obviously, is my favorite.
Exactly. I didn't even think of that, but this is totally in your wheelhouse.
I almost put in Nobody's Perfect in my list for sports comedies. Mm-hmm. It's a tennis movie. It's really a movie that I want people to watch. Where a guy played by Chad Lowe will do anything to get close to the girl of his dreams. So he naturally becomes a girl, dresses like a girl to be close to her.
You talked about that before,
I talked about it in the podcast. That's why it's not on my list. But it's like he's so obsessed with her that he becomes a girl to be close to her and to be on, and they're on the tennis team together, and. It's just
which is how we both met our wives, of course. It's just a normal thing everyone goes through.
Exactly, that's how true love starts. I'm obsessed with that movie, and I love the ending to that movie especially. I think it's a really funny moment where it goes. Ladybugs definily has some of that, and it's silly. I'm almost embarrassed that I like it so much, but that I enjoyed it at least so much on this viewing. The first time I saw this movie was when it came out in theaters. I went to go see it in a Times Square theater that was kind of run down, and it was me alone mostly. I think there was maybe one other person in the theater, and there were a bunch of rats in the theater. So take that for what you want, but it was an interesting way to see this movie on a big screen, big Times Square theater screen. Me, a hobo, and some rats. So it was fun, and I enjoyed it.
It should be like one of those like sleazy, like I don't know. That just seems kind of right.
And it opened on the same day as White Men Can't Jump, March 27th.
I didn't realize that.
And another movie, which is on my list, also opened up on March 27th. So 3 sports comedies. Actually, 4 sports movies opened up on the same day. Ladybugs, White Men Can't Jump, one of my titles coming up, and The Power of One. Do you remember that one? That came out too on the same day, March 27th, 1992. What a day! What a day!
Yeah.
Right.
What a day for sure.
Let's hear a TV. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. Let's hear the spot for my my next pick, my double feature with Ladybugs.
Here it is.
You can do it, Barry.
Barry was a hero in his heart.
I really like you. We always seem to meet this way. It's not going to be so easy this time.
But he wanted someone to prove it to.
Do you want a real shot at me? Well, there's your chance. Karate tournament?
And he needed his fantasy partner.
Hi, I'm Chuck Norris.
To become his real-life teammate.
Why don't you and I go win this thing, huh?
Jonathan Brandis and Chuck Norris.
I can't believe that was you.
Sidekicks. Rated PG. Starts Friday, April 30th.
All right. So that is the spot for Sidekicks. And I absolutely adore this movie. You don't have Rodney Dangerfield, unfortunately, but this time you've got Chuck Norris appearing as himself, while Jonathan Brandis, who's back and who's the reason why I kind of wanted to pair these together, obviously, he plays this character Barry Gabruski, who's like a bullied asthmatic teen who carries around an issue of Black Belt magazine in his pocket and fantasizes like these like super vivid, like concerning, I would say if I was around him, like daydreams that he has about these heroic escapades with Chuck, and the fantasies are so fun. Like these like he goes off on these like really like vivid, like lucid, like daydreams that like they'll make you wish like they were feature length movies like in themselves. And it's so much fun. Like more importantly, like as fun as like those moments are where he's like off on these adventures with Chuck Norris in his mind, like the moments in between are actually really well done and really charming. And that's what makes the movie work. Because if it was like a really dull, uninspiring movie around it, you wouldn't really care. It would just be like a bunch of little snippets that are fun to kind of sit through, and that's it. But I think it's a lot better than that. And the supporting cast is incredible. You got Beau Bridges playing his father. You got Julia Nixon playing his teacher, and she's like the damsel in distress in all his fantasies, which is funny. You've got Mako from Conan the Barbarian and stuff. He's playing his mentor, kind of. He's the teacher's uncle, or I think he's her uncle. Gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on that after how many times I've seen this, but he kind of assumes like the mentor role and trains Barry. And you've got Danica McKellar from the Wonder Years, of course, and she kind of becomes like a love interest. And you've got one of my favorite is Joe Piscopo as like this character who's like kind of like Martin Cove's Kreese from the Karate Kid. Like he's like a parody version of him almost, which is already kind of like a over the top character. So it's like extremely over the top. And he's kind of like the villain in all these fantasies too. One of them is a little bit racist, you might say, because they put some makeup on him and it's supposed to be in Vietnam. But I don't know. It's it's just really well done, and then well cast. And you've got Richard Mall, who I love from House and a million other things, and he's like this kind of drill instructor, gym coach. And you even have like Garrett Graham from like Child's Play 2 and TerrorVision. He's like a drama teacher, so it's like a lot of like really fun like kind of character actors and stuff like filling this out. So you don't get a lot of Chuck Norris actually, and you kind of get just the right amount, and it's like really fun and colorful in between, and it's like you not only like I feel like the payoff is really rewarding too, especially as a kid. Which I saw this again when I was pretty young. And you not only do you get to see Barry kind of like triumph over his bully, but like he does it like with like Chuck Norris, like actual real life Chuck Norris, like not just the guy he keeps seeing in his fantasies, which is fun, like that it's kind of written in the script that way, like to where it works out. And sure, that's like super cliche and stuff, I'm sure, but it just works, and it's a really fun movie. And it's directed by Chuck's younger brother, Aaron Norris. So I thought that was funny too. So I don't know. I'm a fan. It's a lot more, I guess, wholesome than Ladybugs. But I still think they kind of pair together really well. What did you think about this one, Meep?
I hadn't seen this one since it came out. So I wasn't sure what to think, like what to expect. I don't know why I don't remember much about it. And so I watched it, and yeah, it is a bit of a clone of The Karate Kid, but it's got a lot of heart to it. I was kind of not prepared for that for some reason to like it as much as I did. I mean, it's not I'm not going to say pretend it's a great movie or anything, but it really does work, of course, somehow, and it works for what it is. It really does work, and I found myself caring about the characters and enjoying where it goes, and like how he's going to get to where he needs to get in this movie, and and trace where that goes, and found it kind of fairly matches up with a lot of the movies like The Karate Kid. Like does a good job of getting from point A to point B to point to the end of the film. Like it has a good payoff. And I found it very entertaining. In between, I liked a lot of his fantasy sequences. I think they're fun and added dimension to the movie. I think the characters have a good level of depth, and the relationships between him and the father and the other characters. I think they all interact in interesting ways. And so I was kind of surprised that I was expecting this movie to be kind of like a cheap knockoff, but it's actually not. It's actually pretty well done. Knockoff. It really feels like it's taking cue from The Karate Kid, but becoming its own thing at the same time. And I like that about it. It becomes it's not quite a Chuck Norris movie, but Chuck Norris does play a huge role in this film, and I was kind of surprised by that. Like that it was a good meld of those ideas of what Joe Piscopo is a bit over the top in this movie. He does go a little too over to make it becomes a cartoon in that sense, and maybe the movie's weak spot. But I did appreciate performances by the other people in the movie, like you said, Beau Bridges playing the dad, basically playing the same dad he played in The Wizard. He feels like the same exact dad.
Pretty much. He had another family. Mako
playing the Mr. Miyagi of this movie. It's unfair to make those comparisons, but the movie does.
No, he does clearly is. I almost said the same thing. Yeah.
And then Julia Nixon as the sort of the teacher who may be love interest for the dad. I'm not sure if it's fully exploited, but it's kind of there. Danica McKellar from The Wonder Years as love interest for Jonathan Brandis. Richard Mole, I think he's like a coach or something. He's like really
he's a gym teacher.
Gym teacher. Right. Garrett Graham is in this movie. It was fun seeing him pop up, and good cast surprisingly for this kind of movie. And of course, Chuck Norris playing Chuck Norris. That's another next level thing. It adds an interesting dimension to this movie where he's actually playing himself. I like that. And then, of course, directed by his brother. So that's gives another level there. You could consider it a vanity project in one way, but I don't think so. I think a movie does want you to have heroes, some of our heroes may be Chuck Norris, some of them may be Mr. Miyagi, whoever, people to look up to, people who can, guide you through your, through these adolescent years. Bullying is definitely a big part of these movies of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, of course.
And it's bullying is a bit different now these days. It still exists, but maybe it's more of like a thing that's kind of exists more online for kids, and so that's its own dangerous thing. So I like to see a Karate Kid online kind of movie. Maybe someone needs to make that. Maybe like a Ghost in the Machine Karate Kid crossover movie.
Oh my god!
I don't know. I have weird thoughts in my head about it, but anyway, going back to Sidekicks, it's better than you think it's going to be, and that's kind of my take from it. And actually, this was a family movie night that we played, and it played very well actually for everyone. So everyone was into Sidekicks. So it was a successful family movie night movie. So I do recommend it as a family movie.
I'm glad to hear that.
I bought the DVD. It's some weird. I don't know if it's like an import or bootleg or whatever it was that I bought. Full frame. It's not officially available right now. I don't know why. So it should be, because I think it would be more love would be given to it if it was available. So hopefully that will happen one day. But a Sidekicks Blu-ray might be nice.
Cool.
Most of the movies you mentioned today, let's see, Replacements on Blu-ray, Eddie's on DVD, Wildcats is on DVD only, White Men Can Jump is on Blu-ray, and then Sugar and Spice is on
Blu-ray.
Sugar and Spice is on DVD only, Digstown Blu-ray, Mr. Baseball might be a Blu-ray, but I know it's a DVD, Ladybugs Blu-ray, and so this one not even a real DVD, so hopefully that'll happen. I'm a fan, and I'm glad you picked it. It was a fun double feature for sure. You get a lot with these two movies, I gotta say. You get a lot of different kinds of notes. And rest in peace, Jonathan Brandis. That was a real shock to a lot of people when it happened, when he passed away, and I feel really bad. Hollywood's a horrible place for a lot of young actors, and unfortunately he was taken. So let us get into my number 2. Here it is.
Show us what you got.
In the gentlemanly sport of ice hockey, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Paul Newman stars in Slap Shot.
Okay, I went with a classic example of the sports movie, and this one, of course, is Slapshot. That was the VHS spot that I played. I thought it was appropriate because this is how I first saw this movie on VHS. I was too young for it when it came out in theaters. It came out February 25th, 1977. I was just 2. If I did see it in the theaters, which probably because my parents took me to everything, I don't remember it seeing it in the theaters. I liked this movie growing up. I didn't appreciate it fully for some reason. I just thought it was, like a sports movie, a lot of cursing, a lot of violence, a lot of guys hitting each other. So it wasn't quite my thing as a kid growing up, but as an adult, I've grown to appreciate this movie even more. I could see why it's considered a classic example of the sports movie. It's really rousing and entertaining, and there's a lot of fighting and a lot of cursing, and it's a real grown-up kind of sports movie. And I really enjoy the hell out of it, to be honest. I think it's, Paul Newman, great as a lead character in a movie, playing kind of the coach and player of this hockey team, and seeing where that goes. And of course, it's about the team being sold, and a lot of the contempt that people have for the sport and for owners, and their contempt for the players, and there's a general feeling of camaraderie of the players. There's a lot going on, a lot of notes in this movie that are interesting and brutish, but fun, and some notes of like darkness between some of the characters. Like some of the characters are I don't know, just like fully, and they're very interesting and fully developed characters, which you don't kind of expect in some of these sports movies. I think this one goes out of its way to really develop its characters. I like that it's got an interesting point of view with Paul Newman in the lead, but I think it always finds time for some of the other supporting players, and I like that it was written by a woman and has some female point of view there, and so it makes time for when Lindsay Krause shows up and her relationship she has with Michael Onkean and where that goes, and just so tracing this team and their season of trying to win I really like this movie. I think it's really well done, and of course directed by a great director, George Roy Hill. Of course, made The Sting, so you can see the connection there with Paul Newman. But I've always liked his movies. I think, of course, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid is the other one, of course, that he's famous for. But even movies like after this that he did, he went from Slapshot to A Little Romance. I'm like, that's a big jump, right? In terms of, and then of course after Little Romance, he did The World According to Garp, which was another interesting jump. And he took those chances as a director. And even though this is a very gritty movie, he had the chops to make a movie like A Little Romance, very different tone. I think it's a funny movie too. I think it's really funny. I like the characters, and I like the brutish violence too. I think it's really entertaining. It goes balls out. It's kind of what you want in a sports movie. I think it's mostly known for the Hanson brothers, those three characters, those enforcer characters. I think it's famous for that, and I think they're really fun characters. So when they show up in the movie, it's like it adds another level. And I love that part when they actually do come into the film, and I love the running music of the theme of music in this movie with Right Back From Where We Started From by Maxine Nightingale. I think that was a really fun song, a real theme and anthem to this movie. I forgot that was this movie. That's what this movie is. That song is most known for this movie. It was so much so that it was used as a theme in hockey stadiums for a long time.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think especially in Canada, they really respect like that song. Yeah, it's just a fun movie. It's well loved and beloved classic of sports movie, but as a sports comedy, it really does work really well, and it still holds up so well these 43 years later, and all its grittiness. I love it. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's a reason it's a classic, right? I mean, it's really well done. Paul Newman's really charming, as always. I mean, I'm a big fan of Paul Newman. I think I've told you before, but Cool Hand Luke's one of my favorite movies of all time. But he's great in everything. And it's just, it's really well done. It's kind of what you would expect if you said that the director of, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and The Sting made a sports comedy. I enjoyed it. It was fun to watch it again. It's kind of like a different kind of humor. I guess maybe it's just like that era, but it worked. I thought it was really funny. I liked that he was kind of trying to garner attention for the team and trying different things and kind of trying to play up the whole, the violence of hockey, kind of that side of the sport, and I don't know, it worked really well, and it kind of, I think, if I can't really picture anyone else in that role, but Paul Newman was kind of the perfect guy for that. And I don't know. It's kind of like a classic. It's a pretty well-known movie, so I don't feel like there's a whole lot to necessarily, talk about as far as things people might not know, but. It's a good one, and there's a reason. It's got its reputation. It's well earned, I would say. And I had a really fun time watching it again, and I'm glad you picked it.
Yeah, I mean, it really does hold up so well. And just the characters, though, like, I love especially the French Canadian character Denis. I think he's really funny, and there's something about like how lovable he is, which is a nice contrast to like the Hanson brothers and how like dumb but funny they are, and like I don't know, everyone. And then Michael Onkeen kind of playing this like pacifist character who doesn't want to resort to violence in the sport, and that is an interesting payoff too. And then of course Strother Martin in this movie, Jennifer Warren, a lot of good people like pop up in this movie, and just like their little roles, like Jerry Hauser, the guy who wants to be the guy who's kind of like becomes killer, right? He's good. Yeah. He's a good character too.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, Coach, I'm going to call myself Killer from now on. I'm going to change my name. I love that. Yeah, that's great.
Melinda Dillon, who was the mom in Close Encounters, shows up.
That's where I knew her from.
Yeah.
Okay.
She has very 70s boobs. Swoozie Kurtz, who was in Wildcats, is a friend. She's in this movie. And, Paul Dooley shows up. There's a lot of good people in this movie. It's really well done. 70s movie, and I love it. I mean, I can see what to me it's like. Maybe consider the ultimate like sports comedy. Because it's such like the perfect example of like you want to say a sports comedy, like just you can say Slapshot and like people will get it. Like, oh yeah,
yeah. It's funny because I think for our generation, I think you too, because again you were pretty young with this one. I think that like we probably think of Major League, right? Mm-hmm. But I think this was Major League before Major League,
right? Exactly.
And it really is, and it's really. I mean, it's a little different, obviously, different era. But it's like it's that level iconic, and I think it's really good. It's better. I mean, heck, what am I saying? It's probably a better movie.
It's a better movie, but I could see you could definitely see where one would be the '80s version of that.
Exactly.
Like another team that wants to be sold, because they're not respected, and the owner doesn't care, about them. They're just a thing. They're just a commodity. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually a theme in some of these, like I think that came up in Eddie and a couple of other places too, probably. So, yeah, no, I think that's a good trope, kind of done well here, done really well here because it seems very believable.
Right.
There's a whole like subplot about like the mill closing in town and people losing their jobs and the economy kind of in the tank, and how's that going to affect this little. I don't even know. Are they like semi-pro? They're like Federal League, whatever the Federal League hockey team is supposed to be. So, I don't know. It's done in a really believable way where it's not just like some cartoonish villain.
Right.
And then it kind of works out really well too. Like I like where the characters end up. I like where Paul Newman kind of ends up, especially. Right. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan.
Okay, great. All right, let's get into our number ones. Here's a radio spot for your number one.
Death Race 2000. In the year 2000, hit-and-run driving is no longer a crime. It's the national sport. Death Race 2000, starring David Carradine. He was built by the world's finest surgeons to drive the fastest car ever designed, and nothing can stop him now. Death Race 2000, a cross-country road wreck. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Yeah, so my number one is Death Race 2000 from 1975. Yep, gosh, I mean, it's a Roger Corman cult classic, Death Race 2000. It sits atop the top of my list of sports comedies. It's the only film where you can hear the great thespian Sylvester Stallone say, Myra, some people might think you're cute, but me, I think you're one very large baked potato. So, I mean, it's just so good. It's such a great movie. It feels so ahead of its time. It's so funny, but in like it's just a different kind of humor. I guess it appeals to my kind of twisted sensibilities, I guess. Going back to Ladybugs or whatever else you want to look at. But when you look at like you've got this. I should explain this, I guess, just in case someone hasn't seen it. But you've got this 3-day transcontinental death race, and you've got the participants for this race. You've got Nero the hero, played by I'm blanking on his name, even though I just mentioned him a minute ago. From the Karate Kid. Nero the hero is Kreese and Karate Kid.
Oh, right.
Anyway, you've got him in there. You've got Matilda the Hun, played by Roberta Collins. You got Calamity Jane, played by the lovely Mary Warnoff. And I was surprised that I was like, I thought she was so hot, because I kind of forgot that she, Mary Warnoff was a babe too, for lack of a better term. And I mean, there's a lot of beautiful women in this movie. And you've got who you just mentioned, of course, Stallone. You've got him playing Machine Gun Joe Viterbo, and he's really good in that role. It's kind of like I guess he's kind of the villain of the movie, for lack of a better choice in many ways. And he's really good in the role. I mean, he plays a great bad guy, and I mean, he's just I don't know. It's really fun. And then, of course, you've got the main character is Frankenstein, who is played by the late, great David Carradine, who I once got to see at a bar in person, which I thought was pretty cool here in Studio City. I'm a fan. So I feel like a lot of tropes have kind of been borrowed from this over the years. Like, you've got a lot of stuff about the race, like they're awarded points for running over pedestrians. So again, I mean, that kind of tells you like what kind of humor it is. And they're racing from like New York to like New Los Angeles. Like, I love that it's New Los Angeles. And there's like this subplot like involving the assassination of like the leader of the free world, who's the president of the United States. But I love that he's just called Mr. President. His name is Mr. President, and like. I mean, I can't explain it. Like, I'm not doing it justice, but like the way they use that name, it's hilarious. The way everyone just kind of casually talks about Mr. President is great. And you've got this assassination plot, and then you've got like Frankenstein. All the drivers have like these navigators that kind of sit with them and map things out, and like they're kind of like. For the guys, they've got these beautiful women. For the girls, they've got these guys, and I don't know. It's really fun, like the whole dynamic and the world that they created for this. And you got like these rebels kind of trying to like abolish this race, and they've got like their own plot that involves, of course, the whole assassination thing. I don't know. It's great. It's like a really bizarre blend, I think, that kind of just worked out perfectly, because you've got like this cast and this concept and everything that's already kind of all over the place, but then like behind the scenes you've got a lot of different kind of talent that I think kind of all brought something to the table, because you got it was directed by Paul Bartel, of like Eating Raoul fame, so I think that's interesting for like a Roger Corman movie, especially this kind of movie. Like, you wouldn't, picture this, you wouldn't associate this with Paul Bartel. And then when I was watching it this time, I actually noticed Louis Teague's name pop up in the credits. Who, I mentioned Cat's Eye earlier. Louis Teague directed Cat's Eye. He directed Alligator. I'm blanking. There was another movie I wanted to mention that he did, but he's a great director in his own right. And I think he was listed as like a associate editor or second unit director or something for this, but he actually does a commentary for the movie on the Shout Factory disc. And I saw an excerpt from the commentary, because I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole thing through. I just kind of gave it a start, and then I wanted to read up on it a little bit. because I thought it was really interesting. And he basically said that his instructions from Roger Corman were to shoot as many like exciting action sequences as possible. And then his instructions from Paul Bartel were to like shoot squirrels, like watching the cars go by, like a Disney movie or something. Is the way he described it. So, again, you've got different visions here, but I think because of that, it all kind of works and makes it even quirkier and more charming. And there's also like a really fun Leonard Maltin and Roger Corman interview in the special features that I found really enjoyable. And I would recommend it to anyone who's interested. But yeah, I mean, gosh, I have a few more things to say, but I'm curious because I don't think we talked about this one at all. What are your thoughts on Death Race 2000?
I've always been a fan of Death Race 2000. And Paul Bartel's movies in general. I think he has a sense of comedy that's not, he has a very unique sense of humor that's not found in a lot of movies, and it's definitely fully on display in this movie. Like you said earlier, it was a movie ahead of its time, and it really does feel like that. It's set like a near future movie, whatever, but the humor itself is just very much ahead of its time, and I'm sure audiences in 1975 probably weren't sure what to make of it. I can't imagine what they were like. What is this weird movie?
Sorry, before I forget, like just to give people an idea in case somehow they haven't seen it. Like I mentioned, you get points for hitting pedestrians, and I guess you get like a lot of points if you hit seniors. And there's a part where this hospital rolls out a bunch of like wheelchair bound and bed bound seniors, like to kind of like, they called it like Frankenstein said it's like, they call it euthanasia day or something like that. Like basically like they're just bringing out these, and they're also happy about it too, these nurses and stuff that are bringing them out. And I mean, like, it's just so casual the way it's done, and I love that like Frankenstein like bypasses that, like he goes around the seniors even though he would have got more points, and runs over all the nurses that like rolled them out there. And I just had to throw that in there because you were mentioning the humor. It's just so like out there, like it's something you would expect from like 95 maybe, I don't know, 2005, something else you wouldn't expect it necessarily in 75 for sure. It
definitely has that anti-authority thing that was going on in the 70s and 80s, that kind of feel. There's definitely that. John Carpenter, of course, was really good at doing stuff like that with like his movies. And I feel like, this was definitely an early version of that. Like, it really does feel like an early version of like what John Carpenter was doing, but in the comedic way, in the dark black comedy way that Paul Bartel is so good at doing. I mean, I love his movies. This may not be one of my favorites of his movies, but I do love Eating Raoul, and my favorite of his movies is Scenes from the Class Struggle in Beverly Hills, which came out on Blu-ray a few months back. I mean, I just love his sense of humor. It really does line up with my own, and just having a lot of fun just watching. It's like an 80-minute movie or a 75-minute movie. It goes by really quickly.
It's pretty breezy.
It's pretty breezy. A lot of carnage in Death Race 2000. A lot of silliness. But making also kind of its own statement as well, which is fun. And Mary Woronov could be in any movie, and I'll watch her in it. And for sure, I love her in this movie. I think she's great. She has a lot of great lines, and I like her a lot. A lot of people meet their demise in this movie, and I was always bummed out because I like their characters, and especially like her Calamity Jane character. I wanted her.
It kind of becomes like a body count movie, almost like as they're getting like picked off, for sure.
Yeah, which it reminds me of like say the early like a movie that came out not long after this, the Joe Dante, Alan Arkish movie Hollywood Boulevard, which is like a body count movie, but also a black comedy. So there's definitely that humor was in the air in the 70s, and But I think definitely Paul Bartel leading the way with that and his influence on, like, say, a movie like Hollywood Boulevard and other movies that came after this. He definitely set a tone for a lot of movies and the Roger Corman films, for sure, which I like and really appreciate. So yeah, I've always been a fan, but I've grown to even appreciate it more as an adult, and who is especially in 2020, where we're really not trusting authority. Yeah. I think it's the kind of it's an interesting watch in 2020, put it that way.
For sure. I definitely think so, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that just really, like, I think, like, I don't know how to describe it, but even just some of, like, the media personalities, I guess, are like sportscasters and stuff. It just really, like, feels like almost like caricatures of actual, people we have on TV and stuff like that. I don't know. It's crazy. It's just, but it's all done so well, and it's cast so well, and I don't know. I really love this movie. I like, it didn't really pop in my mind as like a sports comedy necessarily, but like as I was kind of getting my list together, something kind of made me think of racing, and then of course my mind went here, and like I was like, oh my god, I've got my number one pick. Like another like that's gonna top this. So. Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about it for sure. I did, I was debating whether or not I should mention this, because I'm like kind of ashamed, I guess, but like I recently, maybe within like the last year or so, saw the 2008 remake that's just called Death Race.
Oh yeah, I think I watched that when it came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw it. I don't know why. Like, I just never saw it. I didn't see it in theaters. I never saw it on TV or anything like that. And I just caught it like pretty recently, and like I really liked it. It's like it has nothing to do with this movie. The only thing like similar is like you've got a race, but it's more like it's kind of more like it's a TV show where prisoners are racing, and it's in a prison, and you've got some colorful characters, and you've got like a Frankenstein character again with Jason Statham, I think. But it's gosh, I mean, it might be like, again, like I'm not a big fan of modern movies. I know I say that a lot, but like this might be my favorite like Jason Statham movie. Like, because I can't think of a lot that I like, but like I really liked it. I really liked that movie, and I thought it's just weird. Like it's like a different kind of movie. And I mean, when else am I gonna bring that up? But I just thought I should mention it because I was really surprised. I thought especially because I'm a fan of the original, I'm pretty hard on most remakes, and especially if it's like just a remake in name only, it's like, what's the point? But I don't know. This one was pretty fun, and David Carradine has like a voice cameo, I guess, in it. As like the Frankenstein, I guess he's Frankenstein before that mantle gets passed to someone else, Jason Statham basically. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Death Race 2000. Of course, I mean the remake doesn't compare, but a big thumbs up. I'm so glad to get a chance to talk about it, and I do think, if you're a little weird, like the right kind of weird, the humor is really going to work for you too. So I'd say give it a chance if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it for a long time. Yeah, for sure. I like that it also anticipates the reality TV world. Yeah. Absolutely. It also dawned on me while watching it, this would be a good double feature with The Running Man. Yes, exactly. For sure. It's totally in the same vein. Absolutely. Yeah. Fun movie, is for sure. All right. Here is my number one, going at a different speed altogether from Slapshot. Here's another movie on the ice that's not Slapshot.
He's down and out.
Those are figure skates, pal.
A year from now, you're going to be in a Snoopy costume and Ice Capades.
She's on her own.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Hey, Snow White, relax. I'm no figure skater. I'm a hockey player.
Don't quit your day job.
Now, there's only one thing keeping them from winning the gold.
Could you please put me down?
Each other. The Cutting Edge, rated PG.
Okay, that was the TV spot for The Cutting Edge, which made my number one, surprisingly. And it's a movie from 1992. What are the odds? This podcast. Yeah, I love The Cutting Edge because to me it's the perfect meld of sports movie with a screwball comedy together. And I love sports movies and I love screwball comedies, so I'm getting 2 for 1 with The Cutting Edge. Of course, we know The Cutting Edge as a movie about a former hockey player who was a hockey player, and then he gets injured, and he can no longer play, and then there's this Olympic ice skater, figure skater who, she's temperamental, to say the least, and she's having problems keeping a partner. So someone gets the idea of joining them together to be a skating team, and of course it doesn't go off very well in the beginning. They're always at odds with each other, and the movie charts that and how they have to learn how to be a pair on the ice and potentially a pair together romantically. Yes, this is a romantic comedy, screwball comedy, a sports movie, an Olympic movie, and every time I watch it, I fall in love with the characters and the movie itself. We mentioned The Running Man just now. Would you believe the director of The Running Man also directed The Cutting Edge?
No way.
Starsky himself from Starsky and Hutch, Paul Michael Glaser, directed both films, and I always found that kind of odd. Like these movies don't quite feel like each other at all. Yeah, he was kind of definitely a director for hire. He made different kinds of movies, different kinds of feeling movies. I feel like he even did that movie Bands of the Hand. That might have been him too. Yeah, it was interesting to see that, and when seeing this in the theater in 1992, I wasn't sure quite what to expect. It was like a sneak preview that it opened up like a couple of weeks before it actually opened as a sneak preview with the Once Upon a Crime. Do you remember that movie? That ensemble comedy, like mystery comedy, from MGM, both films from MGM. I'm like, oh, The Cutting Edge, we'll go see that. And Once Upon a Crime was playing after it or whatever. And we were just kind of like, just bowled over by it and just like charmed by it. Moira Kelly and D.W. Sweeney have electric chemistry together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a movie that's been since beloved by people who are into these kinds of movies. They definitely picked up on the energy between the two characters, and the romantic chemistry is definitely there. And it's very apparent on the screen when watching the movie, and they're really good together. And a lot of that's because when you have characters in movies, like especially in the screwball comedy format where they're at odds with each other or they hate each other initially, and of course they have to grow to like each other and appreciate each other and fall in love with each other. I just always like that template. I think it's a really good way of setting up your story, your characters, because a lot of the comedy is going to come from what character based and also dialogue based, and I think this movie does that really well. And Paul Michael Glaser, handles the hockey stuff in an interesting way. It's a little bit dated with some of that hockey stuff, skating stuff. The style has a editing style that was kind of coming out around this time in American films. A lot of people were using this kind of little bit of a slow-mo editing style that I think was initially coming out of Hong Kong with like Wong Kar-wai films, and you would see that in his movies, and then it was kind of rubbing off on American movies of this time period. It was in a lot of movies from 92, 93. You could really, really see this kind of style which dates the movie a little bit. But I still kind of like it. I like the energy of the movie. I like the feel of the movie. I like the Olympic setting. I like the cold ice skatingness of it all. And I think it's really funny. And I think the characters just have a lot of fun bickering and playing off of each other so well in this movie. And a lot of the fun scenes of them like trying to one-up each other and... which, leads to lots of all kinds of interesting chemistry and tension and sexual tension. And, and Terry O'Quinn plays the dad, and he's like, anytime Terry O'Quinn's in a movie, it's going to be pretty good. Love seeing him. And you got the Russian coach, you got like, or wherever he's from. You get, and then like, setting up his character, D.W. Sweeney's character, is this blue blood, all-American type who's kind of embarrassed a little bit by what he's doing and has to admit to his brother and his family that he is becoming a figure skater because he can't be a professional hockey player anymore, right? He has to grow to appreciate it, for what it is. A sport that you don't immediately think of as a sport, it's something that's thought of as a very feminine sport. And he's a very macho guy. There's a lot of that, that kind of tension from that. And, but I think, it's a movie about overcoming a lot of what your perceptions of things are. People, whether they're people or sports that are considered feminine or whatever. It's just an interesting way to chart that in a sports comedy setting and or romantic comedy setting in this case. So I love it. Every time I watch it, I'm drawn into this movie and charmed by it, and love the characters. And I'm interested in what your thoughts are on The Cutting Edge.
Yeah, so something you just said kind of brought a thought to my mind, and that's the thing with The Cutting Edge, and I guess kind of a little bit with Bring It On, that I realized watching them this time was, my younger self and a lot of like the kind of jocks in these movies and stuff were making fun of or like ridiculing the guys, like the male cheerleaders, or like a guy who would be in like this figure skating duo, and like watching it now, I'm like, dude, like we were wrong. Like they're the ones like with these like beautiful women and like doing like like all this like fun stuff, and I'm like, well, what did we have to show for like hockey or football or whatever? Like the guys that are kind of looking down at this stuff, like we're just getting beat up and like sharing a bus with a bunch of smelly guys at the end of the day or whatever. So I don't know, you just kind of made me think of that right now, because I know this character kind of has to face that at some point, that shame, and like kind of watching it again, I'm like, oh no, you're in the right. Like you're here paired with this beautiful woman and having, I don't know, it like this romance that develops, and it's just, I don't know. So, well, like, let me say this, actually. This movie, I hadn't seen it until, I don't know, I guess at some point these past 10 years that I've known my wife, she introduced me to it, because this is a movie that she loves. And it's a movie that I didn't expect to like, but I really love it. I think it's a really good movie. It's really fun. The chemistry is there between the leads, and without that, I don't know if it works as well as it does. The supporting cast is great. I feel like it's choreographed really well. I was interested to hear you kind of talking about some of the editing choices. I guess I hadn't really looked at it as critically, but that's something I definitely want to look out for now, because I do feel like some of it's very 1992 obviously, but yeah, I think our brains just automatically sometimes shift to those periods whenever we're watching movies from those periods, and just kind of we don't even realize that we're seeing something that might be very different or whatever, because we're just so used to seeing it. So yeah, that's interesting. That's something to look out for. But But yeah, it's a really charming movie. I feel like the progression of their partnership slash relationships, like, it's handled really well to where it's like pretty believable for like this kind of a movie. And I don't know, I liked it a lot. I think that I think I've only maybe seen it twice now. But even just in 2 viewings, I think I like it enough to where if you hadn't picked it, I probably would have found a way to put it on my list.
Nice.
Because it's just that, I don't know, it just kind of hits the right notes for me, which again, like, I'm not a huge romantic comedy guy, but this is just a really good movie, and it does it really well. And I don't know, there's something about Moira Kelly too, like, I think she kind of like looks like, to me, like she had like kind of like a Asia Argento kind of thing going on, to where I feel like I'd seen her in like she looked like someone you would have seen in like a bunch of giallos or something, like from the 80s or 90s and something like that. And like that kind of like drew me in already, because I was like, oh, like I've got like this is like the female lead that I'm kind of used to for a lot of those kinds of movies that I love. And I love that she was like so like I don't know, feisty, for lack of a better term. She's just like really like she really gave her partners a hard time, and she gave D.B. Sweeney a really hard time. But she was just so good at it, and like and still like somehow like a 3-dimensional character. So I think she might be like my favorite part of this movie. I don't know, but I think D.B. Sweeney's great too. And again, everyone else, like you mentioned, the coach, the dad, everyone's really good in it. The supporting cast that we kind of see here and there. But I don't know. It's just a really good movie that I'm surprised I like as much as I do. It's funny because when I was rewatching it for the podcast, my wife started watching it, but it was like pretty late when I put it on, and she could, with the baby and work and everything, she's like, I'll finish it later. She had to go knock out, and like I just caught myself like sitting there, like just me like watching the cutting edge. Like normally that would be like, oh, okay, my wife's going to sleep, let me take it out and pop in like a slasher or something. But like, no, like I was like totally like, well, maybe I'll watch it again with her later, but I'm finishing this now because I'm really into it. So like, I don't know. It's funny to me that like this movie kind of has made a fan out of me the way it has. But I'm all for it. And I think it's a great choice for your number one.
Thank you. And it spawned a couple of like direct-to-video or TV movie sequels, but it should be noted that both D.W. Sweeney and Moira Kelly made a pact together that if they were offered sequels and one of them just declined, the other would refuse to be in the movie. Because their chemistry was so strong in that original film that if one of them wasn't going to do the film, the other one wouldn't do it either, and they kept that pact since. So it's interesting that that's how the bond that they had on that film was so strong that it lasted all these years. This is a movie now approaching 28 years. So I saw this in the theater. Like I said, it was a sneak preview with Once Upon a Crime. It made $25 million at the box office, so it was like a decent size, for box office. But this is a movie where I think home video and cable people really fell in love with it because it kind of became a really big home video hit. So that's why it spawned eventually sequels and like home VHS sequels or DVD sequels.
I didn't even know there were sequels. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think the sequel focuses on their characters' kids because I think that was their way to not get around that they wouldn't be in the movie. So they cast like kids, that's their kids. And then the third movie, I think, had nothing to do with the characters at all. So it's interesting. Right. And then of course it opened on March 27th, 1992. This was again the same day that White Men Can Jump. That's all those other movies, all those other sports movies open up on the same day.
Great!
So yeah, what a day, and what a year for sports comedies. I really enjoyed talking about these movies. I wanted before we wrap up, I wanted to mention. I purposely left it off of my recently seen so I could talk about it now. We've been watching an Apple TV series. I don't watch Apple TV. It came free for a year for whatever reason. So I like, okay, what is this Apple TV? I looked on it, and this new show just came out recently called Ted Lasso, starring Jason Sudeikis, who plays a American football coach who is brought to the UK to help a struggling London football team, or in of course football in every other part of the world except for the United States is called it's soccer here, but football there. So he gets to he's coaching a soccer team or football team in London or England, and so it charts about his particular style of coaching and on this team. It's very much in line with a lot of the movies you mentioned today. It's the new TV version of a lot of these movies. I really felt charmed by this TV show. I think I watched 8 episodes of it already. I think it's 8 or 9 episodes in. And I really love the character of Ted Lasso that Jason Sudeikis plays, and a lot of the other supporting players, and including some of the people on the team. I think it's really well done. Really funny too. What's her name? Juno Temple. She's really good in this show. She's shown up in quite a few movies over the years. She's always a bright spot when she shows up in things, and she's really good in this show. So I really recommend it. Ted Lasso. I think the sports comedy genre as a film might not be a thing right now, but it's happening on a TV show. So it's in a form you could watch. So at least it's that. There is that, and I would recommend watching the show. It's really well done.
Sounds good, man. Sounds like a good recommendation.
Cool. All right. So thank you so much, guys, for being patrons. Thank you so much, Ara, for this talking to me today about these movies. It's always fun talking movies, and I like that we can go from these genres. It's fun. It's really fun. I really appreciate it. I have a feeling it's going to get bloody too coming up.
Yes, I think that we have some fun stuff lined up in October. That's a little bit more in my wheelhouse, but I had a lot of fun with this. I like it when you kind of prompt me to go outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And there's a lot of great kinds of movies out there that I just don't give enough time to, and this was a really fun topic to get into. But yeah, I forgive you for not liking Mr. Baseball.
But I love Ladybugs. So I don't know if anyone else will forgive me for that. It's been an adventure, guys. Thank you for listening, and it's been so much fun talking about these movies. I hope you enjoy some of them, give some of them a chance, and let us know what makes you happy with sports comedies. What have you been watching? What do you like? And we'll put that out there on the Facebook page and Patreon page, and just let us know. And we'll talk more about it. And coming up soon, like I said, might get bloody, so look out for that. Thank you again, Ara. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Meep. Sounds good, buddy.
Take it easy. Ciao for now.
this?
Jimi Hendrix.
No, I know who it is, but why are you playing Jimmy?
Well, because I like to listen to him.
Oh, you like to listen. That's what the fucking problem is. Y'all listen.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Eat it?
No. You're supposed to hear it.
Hey, I just said I like to listen to it, man.
No. There's a difference between hearing and listening. See, white people, y'all can't hear Jimmy. You listen.
What the fuck are you talking about? His drummer was white.
Get the fuck out of here. Jimi Hendrix's drummer was not white.
Yes, he did. Yo, check it out. See?
This is a picture.
Whole damn band is white except for Jimmy.
This is a fucking picture, man. This is airbrush bullshit. Jimi Hendrix did not have a white rhythm section. You cannot hear Jimmy.
All right, fuck.
All right. Thank you.